tamu undangan yang masih hadir dalam acara peluncuran ASEAN-SEAMEO Joint Roadmap. Kepada seluruh Bapak Ibu tamu undangan yang masih berada di luar, kami persilahkan untuk bisa segera memasuki ruangan ballroom dan menempati tempat duduk yang telah tersedia, karena sesaat lagi acara akan segera dilanjutkan. Terima kasih. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to invite each and every one of you to please take your seat at the front rows on the front table. Kami persilakan kepada seluruh Bapak Ibu tamu undangan untuk bisa menempati kursi yang ada di baris terdepan terlebih dahulu. Sekali lagi kami mengajak kepada seluruh Bapak Ibu tamu undangan yang masih berada di area luar untuk berkenan segera memasuki ballroom dan menempati tempat duduk dari sisi terdepan terlebih dahulu. Terima kasih dan selamat menikmati hari Anda. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the launch of the ASEAN-SEAMEO Joint Roadmap. We'd like to continue the event shortly, so please be ready and enjoy your time. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How are you today? How are you feeling after the break? Great. Still excited for today's event? Once again, welcome back to the launch of the ASEAN-SEAMEO Joint Roadmap on ECCE in Southeast Asia. Can we hear a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? That's the spirit. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've had a pleasant lunch with us today at the Hotel Sultan Jakarta. And today on this stage, a group of young children will present the angklung, a traditional Sundanese musical instrument from West Java, recognized by UNESCO. With innocent smiles, their small hands will gently creating soft, melodious tones that blend into a warm and joyful harmony, reflecting the beauty of togetherness and cooperation. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause to the angklung performance by Sanggar Indra Kusuma. Let's give a big round of applause for the amazing performance from Sanggar Indra Kusuma. Thank you so much to our amazing children for the performance, angklung performance from the West Java. Ladies and gentlemen, through their performance, Ayo Mama and Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, the children introduced simple sign language to express unity and the shared joy. And this performance also represents a hopeful future where young generations grow to appreciate culture, preserve tradition, and celebrate diversity with happiness. Ladies and gentlemen, after this, we still have another series of activities, and we will now begin the plenary sessions for this afternoon. We will engage in a series of insightful discussions on key issues surrounding early childhood care and education. The plenary session will be guided by our distinguished moderators who will lead the discussion and facilitate the exchange of ideas and questions among our esteemed speakers. There are three different panel discussion, and for the first session, we will explore on how we can ensure inclusive and high quality early childhood care and education, providing equitable access and supporting holistic development for every children in Southeast Asia. And this session, ladies and gentlemen, will be moderated by our inspiring moderator, Bapak Suhendri. For your information, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to our moderator. Bapak Suhendri or Dr. Suhendri is an expert in early childhood and inclusive education with over 15 years of experience in teacher development, training management, and educational leadership. He currently serves as Deputy Director of Administration at SEAMEO CSAP. And ladies and gentlemen, he will not be alone on this panel discussion. There will be three esteemed speakers who will be here. They will be introduced by Dr. Suhendri today. So ladies and gentlemen, please get ready, be prepared, and be engaged on this panel discussion. If you have any questions and if we have more time, I hope you can participate on the Q&A session on the first panel discussion that will be led by Bapak Suhendri. All right, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's kick off the panel discussion and let us invite the amazing speakers and also moderator for the first sessions. So without further ado, let's give a big round of applause to our moderator, Bapak Suhendri. Bapak Suhendri, how are you today?
Alhamdulillah, saya damang, mohon. Tetiasannya Rio bahasa Inggris.
All right.
I'm good, thank you so much.
Yeah, the stage is yours.
Here or there? Oh nggak, pergi dia. Aduh, Masya Allah. Bahasa Inggris, bahasa Indonesia ini, Pak. Bahasa Indonesia ya, bahasa Inggris ya. Okay, thank you so much MC for the kind introductions. Okay, tetaplah tersenyum walau sering ketemu hantu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sorry ya. Aduh, satu lagi kalau gitu karena bukan. Bertemu tukang tenun, habis makan permen. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, thank you so much everyone for having me as a moderator today. I'm Suhendri from SEAMEO CSAP. I know that it's lovely for us that's having such a great lunch, and then it's better for us to stay in our rooms, enjoy the air conditioner while listening to the soft music, and fall asleep rather than to be here and listening to all of us. But I promise to all of you that this session will be great, and with the great speakers. There is one big issue among us today, that we try every day to provide the high quality education in early childhoods. But we forget one thing. Sometimes we cannot reach the unreachable children. We forget that there is someone out there, children, that maybe they need a quality education, but they cannot get fulfill their rights to get a high quality education. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to provide not only a high quality education, but also inclusive and equitable education for all children. My academic supervisor has told me before that when we talk about education for all, I mean that's Professor David Evans from Sydney University has told me that when we talk about the education for all, so it means for all, full stop. Sometimes we just say that education for all, but it is just a symbol, it is just quotes without doing nothing. So now today, I'm really happy that to be the moderator today, as we will invite 3 great speakers. Let me see. Yep. All right, today we have 3 great speakers, and I want to reflect on our 2 guiding speakers. This Bu Nisa, thank you so much for giving the clue for this moderator today. We said that Bu Nisa said that before we invite the speakers, we have to have 2 guiding questions. First, how can we ensure equitable access to quality early child care education systems, and how can policies and programs better education children's programs in cognitive, social, emotional, and physical development. So allow me to introduce the first speakers today, Pak Kurniawan. He is our first speaker today. Pak Kurniawan, STMBA. Pak Kurniawan is the Director of Early Childhood Education, Ministry of Education. Pak Kurniawan has been, this Pak. Thank you so much, Pak. Terima kasih, Pak. Pak Kurniawan has been actively involved in advancing the national policies and programs aimed at strengthening access, quality, and equitability in early childhood education across Indonesia. Please again, a big applause to Pak Kurniawan. And second speakers, thank you so much. Second speaker we have, this is our family as well. He is from the governing board members in SEAMEO. He says, Pak Priwat Kamai Kawin. Pak Priwat Kamai Kawin is he's the governing board members from Thailand, and Pak Priwat brings a valuable regional perspectives, particularly in strengthening governance frameworks and ensuring inclusive approach within early childhood education systems. Thank you so much, Pak. Should I call you Pak Puriwat? Mr. Puriwat or Mr. Kawai Kawin? Puriwat is okay, yeah. Yeah, in Indonesia there is it's like a little bit bias when we call Pak Kawin, gitu, because his last name is Kawin, right? Oh, you have a family name Kawin, right? Oh, because you know the names of Kawin in Indonesia, right? Okay, long. The first name, okay, thank you so much, yeah. Thank you so much, Pak Puriwat. All right, then, and our third speakers, ini Pak Widodo yang mau memperkenalkan, yang third speaker ini kayaknya luar biasa, ini Pak Eddie Henry from Tanoto Foundation. I think that Pak Widodo, you know Pak Henry ya, Pak Widodo? Pak Widodo, Pak Widodo nggak kenal. Atau Bu Fitri mungkin, mau memperkenalkan Bu Fitri. Ya Pak. Terima kasih Pak. Mohon maaf nih Pak, kita agak santai-santai Pak ya, biar ini nggak ngantuk teman-teman. Pak Eddie Henry is from Tanoto Foundation. Pak Eddie Henry has intensive experience in supporting early childhood education systems, initiative through multi-stakeholder collaborations with a strong focus on improving service, quality, and expanding access of young children. Again, thank you so much for 3 of you having for having such a great time for us today. When we will be happy that if you could present your presentations around 10 minutes every speakers. And please bear with me if maybe the time is about to over, I will remind you. I'm sorry Pak, ini bos saya ini jadi nggak enak. Mohon maaf nih Pak, kalau nanti diingatkan. Alright, and after that we still have time that we will have a question and answer questions. Arjo. And then now for the first presentations, may I kindly invite Pak Kurniawan to present your presentations. Mangga Pak Kurniawan, the time is yours.
Hatur nuhun Pak Henry. Thank you very much, Mr. Henry. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, distinguished, respected colleagues, and all stakeholders in early childhood education. It is a great honor for me, Kurniawan, the Director of Early Childhood Education, to stand before you today to share insights on a matter of critical importance. Title, Fostering Inclusive and High Quality Early Childhood Care and Education, Advancing Equitable Access and Holistic Development for Every Child in Indonesia. This presentation also represents what we have done not only by the Directorate of Early Childhood Education itself, but also the other units within the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, Republic of Indonesia. First, we would like to present an overview of the current state of access, quality, and governance within early childhood education in Indonesia. Indonesia is home to approximately 31 million children aged 0 to 6 years. And currently, our ECCE system consists of over 206,699 centers, with a significant 97% managed by the private sector, so just 3% is managed by the public sector. Our participation rate varies significantly by age group. The number of children, especially at the age of 5 to 6 years, who access ECCE is approximately 85%. The participation rate for children at the age 3 to 4 years is 25%. Next. And the challenges of early childhood education in Indonesia are not only about access, but also about the quality of education and the capacity of educators. And then accreditation, approximately 63% of centers meet moderate to advanced quality standards. Holistic services, 86% of centers provide holistic integrative services combining education, health, and nutrition. Learning quality and governance, 66.01% of ECCE centers are able to facilitate developmentally appropriate learning for early childhood. And 69.84% of ECCE centers already ensure a safe, welcoming, and supportive learning environment for young learners. Human resources is a critical area for improvement, but only 53% of educators hold a bachelor degree and only 57% are considered appropriately qualified. Next. Indonesia's development policies are, of course, aligned with the President's vision and mission. As outlined in the medium-term National Development Plan, the national vision is together with a prosperous Indonesia towards Golden Indonesia. This vision is supported by the Astacita as the national development priorities. The Astacita refers to 8 key goals that serve as the main direction and priorities of the administration of Prabowo Subianto. Among these, the fourth mission focuses on strengthening human capital development. In line with this directive, the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education strives to realize quality education for all. Next. Next. The Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education has identified 8 key strategies to achieve a quality education for all, including adaptive and meaningful learning, adequate learning facilities and infrastructure, competent and prosperous educator and education personnel, a supportive social, cultural, and environment, ensuring equitable access to services, affirmative education financing, inclusive education services, and nurturing interests and talents. Next. Under the leadership of President Prabowo Subianto, Indonesia has committed to 13 years of compulsory education, which now include 1 year of primary school. Here is presidential regulation as the commitment of Indonesia in equality of opportunities and access. This document states the acceleration of the 13 years compulsory education program is directed toward supporting equitable access to quality education for all school-age children. Next. To achieve 1 year of primary school, the ministry is implementing several key strategies, including expanding access by increasing student capacity. It consists of providing and integrating ECCE with primary schools one-stop services, building new ECCE centers, and then adding new classrooms, expanding the authority of ECCE services, because practically there are many villages in Indonesia that just have non-formal ECCE. Therefore, by expanding their authority, they will provide learning for children who at the age of 5 to 6 years old. Proposing a teacher development continuum scheme 0 to 8 years. Next. And in 2025, the Directorate of ECCE execute various interventions to accelerate the one-year compulsory preschool program. We have been formulating the strategic blueprint and implementation manual for the one-year compulsory preschool program, conducting advocacy and equipping local government, regional office, and partnership with some toolkit to ensure they are able to translate this policy into practice, especially in every region. Strategically, we engage Bunda PAUD, the spouses of regional leaders, to recognize the dedication to improving access, quality, and governance of ECCE in their respective regions. Next. This is at a glance an advocacy achievement. As of 2024, 69,872 out of 84,276 villages, approximately 80 to 59% are equipped with ECCE services. As of 2025, 70,193 out of 84,276 villages have established ECCE services. The participation rate of children aged 5 to 6 years has increased, currently being 85.97%. Next. Moving forward, our strategy focuses on enhancing the quality of ECCE services. Both central and local governments are actively encouraging ECCE centers to achieve accreditation with a minimum target of B grade or moderate quality level. In addition to the accreditation process, we implement self-reflection for ECCE center through the annual learning environment survey lingkungan belajar, which is part of the national assessment. The results provide evidence-based insight to drive continuous improvement. Next. A key initiative to improve the quality of our educators is the academic qualification upgrade through the recognition of prior learning, RVL program. We have set an ambitious target for 2026, aiming to scale this program significantly to benefit a total of 150,000 teachers across the nation. Next. In addressing teachers' competencies, Directorate General of Teachers and Education Personnel provides tiered training for ECCE centers. There are 3 levels of achievement consisting of basic, intermediate, and advanced level. Next. In the early childhood education ecosystem, there are 4 educational pillars that play a vital role in a child's holistic development: the family, the ECCE units, the community, and of course, the media. On this occasion, we also wish to express our deep appreciation for the government regulation Tunggu Anak Siap, TUNAS, enacted on March 27th, 2025, which serve to protect our children within the digital space. Furthermore, to ensure the optimal growth and development of young children, the Indonesian government established a holistic integrative early childhood development task force in 2019. This task force ensures that all relevant ministries and agencies collaborate to fulfill the essential needs of children holistically. Our focus lies on 5 key services: education, health and nutrition, nurturing and care, protection, and welfare. At the institutional level or within ECCE centers, we translate this into 8 essential non-educational service indicators that also need to be fulfilled through cross-sectoral collaboration. These indicators include implementation of parenting classes, child growth monitoring, child development monitoring, multi-sectoral coordination with health and nutrition units, implementing clean and healthy lifestyle practices, provision of supplementary feeding and nutritious meals, monitoring the fulfillment of national identity numbers, and availability of sanitation and clean water facilities. Right. The implementation of this 8 indicator at the ECCE center level continues to face significant challenges. Only around 86.25% of centers are able to meet at least 6 of the indicators. One of the main challenges faced by our ECCE center is the lack of adequate sanitation facilities. As of December 2026, only about 8.95% of our ECCE center have report in the Dapodik system that they possess adequate sanitation. Indonesia continues to strive toward ensuring equitable access and holistic development for every child. Through collaboration and heart, let us deliver the very best for Indonesians' young children. And we believe that investing in our youngest citizen today is the most strategic investment for our nation's future. Kurniawan from Jati Asih, cukup sekian dan terima kasih.
Cakep.
Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Atur nuhun Pak Kurniawan for your insightful presentation, also highlighting the key national efforts in advancing inclusive early childhood education systems. Now we will invite Pak Puriwat to deliver his presentation today. I'm sure you will do it by yourself, right? All right then. I just want to make sure that this is, this one. I forgot. I'm sorry for the EO, I forgot the infrared buttons. It should be here. The next,
We
right?
need to test this
All right
first.
then. All right then, Pak Priwat, the time is yours. Thank you.
Is it okay? I'll back. Okay. So very good morning to ladies and gentlemen. My name is Puriwat Kamaikawin. I'm from the Bureau of the Academic Affairs and educational standards, the Office of the Basic Education Commission, Ministry of Education, Thailand. So I will quickly brief over my presentation about the inclusive and high quality early childhood care and education today. So that everyone needs, because of our vision is a school of inclusions where every child thrives. So this roadmap emphasizes on the building foundations across 4 critical dimensions, that is cognitive, physical, creative, and social emotion is very important to our step. And I will go quickly with this. Everyone knows our milestone to achieve our roadmap of the ASEAN-SEAMEO Joint Roadmap on early childhood care and education. And so I will show you briefly about inclusive and high quality early childhood care and education in Thailand. So in Thailand, we have positioned ourselves as a regional leader, ensuring no child left behind. And our strategy transitions from simple child care to holistic educational development model. Thailand's Early Childhood Development Act 2019 mandated more ministerial integration. Ministry of Social Development Day response administer child support grants. Our Ministry of Education, we implement standardized curriculum and active learning. For the Ministry of Public Health, they conduct screening and provide nutrition support. And Ministry of Interior, they observe local infrastructure for this. So in Education for All, we use 3 proactive strategies. The first one is Migrant Learning Center. It is integrating stateless and migrant children into schools. Second is secara support grants, that is financial subsidized from birth to age of 6 years, something. And another is community screening. We are using health volunteer to identify developmental delay in remote area before age of 3. So in this picture, I will show you that the quality ensured through the seamless data syncs from all agencies under the Act in Thailand. The health screening from the Ministry of Public Health flow into the shared nation registry. And after that, the Ministry of Education then used this data instantly to create individualized education program. And in holistic development that I will focus today is we also foster executive functions through holistic play and nature-based sensory integration. This is supported by smart nutrition via the Thai school lunch program to prevent stunting the full brain development. The Thai school lunch program is very fruitful for our students. That is also the automatic platform. So can you go to the website? I will show you a short minute. So you can see the edible, yes, go to the dashboard. The Thai School Runs program is very enable to plan meals that meet 40% of child dietary nutrients while staying within the budget in the school. Or now we have about 30,000 schools in Thailand use this platform. And it is very fruitful from our long-term health outcomes. And this is very fruitful for Thai students in the school. So please back to the presentation. Okay. Sorry. So when we talk about transforming educators, the teacher in Thailand are now we we call this brain engineers. We have moved from one-off seminars to continuous in-classroom coaching provided by the local Thai university, particularly in the local university in each provinces in Thailand. They can have the professional development cross-training for the teachers. And so we move from one of the, we can also emphasize positive discipline to create neuro-safe, stress-free learning environment. And the equitable learning environment, and everyone can learn together. In Thailand, we very emphasis on holistic development for every child. I will show you about 2 examples of holistic development for every child activities in Thailand. That one, the first one is the loose pathway. The loose pathway is, in Thailand we have now about 3,000 schools implement loose pathway in their school. And the loose path refer to the open-end materials, everyday recycling objects that are easily accessible. So the loose pathway use everyday or recycling objects like stone, fabric, packagings that students can manipulate and redesign. The core theory we mean creativity is proportional to the numbers of variables in the environment. The roles change every office of adult, shift from the director to facilitators. The outcome of loose pathway is build resilience, critical thinking, and collaboration across all abilities. So, well, could I ask your permission to have 2 video, about 2 minutes to see the video that I will bring all of you visit Thailand classroom.
เคยสงสัยไหมครับว่าของเล่นที่ดีที่สุดสำหรับลูกๆของเราคืออะไรของเล่นที่ไม่ได้บอกว่าต้องเป็นอะไรแต่เปิดโอกาสให้จินตนาการของเด็กๆสร้างสรรค์ได้เองอย่างไม่มีที่สิ้นสุด
So you can see the
นี่คือภาพบรรยากาศการเรียนรู้ที่เต็มไปด้วยความสุขของพี่ๆนักเรียนอนุบาล 1 โรงเรียนอนุบาลคำแหงกับกิจกรรมสุดพิเศษที่เรียกว่า Loose Pass Loose Pass คืออะไรมันคือวัสดุชิ้นเล็กชิ้นน้อยที่ไม่มีรูปแบบตายตัวอาจเป็นฝาขวดกิ่งไม้ก้อนกรวดลูกแก้วหรือแม้แต่เศษผ้าอะไรก็ได้ครับเมื่อเด็กๆได้ลองหยิบจับและสร้างสรรค์สิ่งต่างๆด้วยตัวเองของเล่นธรรมดาเหล่านี้ก็กลายเป็นตัวช่วยสำคัญที่จะปลดปล่อยพลังแห่งจินตนาการของพวกเขาแล้วประโยชน์ของการเล่นแบบนี้มีอะไรบ้างอย่างแรกคือการพัฒนาความคิดสร้างสรรค์ลองดูสิครับฝาขวดพลาสติกกลายเป็นล้อรถกิ่งไม้กลายเป็นสะพานแต่ละชิ้นงานสะท้อนถึงโลกจินตนาการอันกว้างใหญ่ของพวกเขาอย่างที่สองคือการฝึกการทำงานเป็นทีมเด็กๆได้พูดคุยแลกเปลี่ยนความคิดเห็นกันว่าจะสร้างอะไรแต่ละคนมีส่วนร่วมในการทำชิ้นงานให้สำเร็จนี่แหละครับคือการเรียนรู้ทักษะชีวิตที่สำคัญที่นี่เราไม่ได้สอนให้เด็กๆแค่เรียนรู้จากหนังสือแต่เราสอนให้พวกเขาได้ลงมือทำและคิดด้วยตัวเองการเล่น Loose Pass ไม่ใช่แค่การเล่นแต่มันคือการเรียนรู้ที่จะเติบโตพร้อมจะเผชิญกับโลกแห่งความเป็นจริงในอนาคตแล้วคุณล่ะครับอยากให้ลูกๆของคุณได้เติบโตไปพร้อมกับการเรียนรู้อย่างมีความสุขแบบนี้ใช่ไหมครับเพราะโลกของเด็กๆเริ่มต้นที่จินตนาการโรงเรียนอนุบาลคำแหงอำเภอทุ่งสงจังหวัดนครศรีธรรมราช
So this is the one of the example that school that use the loose path play in the school. So for another example that I will show you about the Little Scientist House. The Little Scientist House program in this picture, you can see Her Royal Highness Princess Mahachakri Sirinthorn, who presents in the middle of the picture. She is a very important person to support this program, and she took this program from Germany to Thailand. And the Written Scientist House is the global STEM initiative for children aged of 3 to 10 years, with major branches in Germany, Australia, and Thailand. It's a year certificate program that transforms school into high-quality STEM center to inquiry-based learning. By upskilling teachers that use low-cost everyday objects we use that would work class science and environment educations are accessible to every child, regardless of their background. This STEM program focuses on inquiry-based learning. The area includes mathematics, computer science, and education for sustainable development. It supports over 27,000 kindergarten schools and 11,000 primary schools. That I mean the primary school we use for the grade 1 to grade 3 in Thailand. Both of the schools, we have the excellence of around 11,000 kindergarten and primary schools have been awarded certificate the royal seals from Her Royal Highness Princess Mahachakri Sirinthorn after the approval by the National Committee. So in this, we very emphasize on the activity that the student can learn by active learning. So the Little Science House activities is based on inquiry-based learning, project-based learning, and context-based learning. This is very happy classroom. And this project, we have various kind of partner. We have 8 founding partners of Little Scientist House Thailand, both in the foundation, the organizations from education, and the private sector as well. And ladies and gentlemen, I will show you for another our classroom for the Little Scientist House.
ต่างๆรอบตัวหนูกับเพื่อนๆเรียนรู้ที่จะถามคำถามกับสิ่งรอบตัว
Brigim is one of our partners.
It's very important for young Thai kids, any kids, to be curious and ask questions. We're celebrating 10 years of the Little Scientist House program in Thailand. It was initiated by Her Royal Highness Princess Mahachakri Sirinthorn in 2010. A decade of exploring how things work by asking questions.
เริ่มแรกเลยเด็กเกิดความสงสัยค่ะเด็กเกิดความสงสัยว่าทำไมเรือที่อยู่ในทะเลเนื่องจากว่าพื้นที่เรามันติดกับทะเล
เรือทำไมลอยน้ำได้ครูให้พวกเราประดิษฐ์เพื่อแจกหลากหลายพัสดุ
The students use
พอเรารู้ว่าอะไรลอย
easy
น้ำบ้าง
material to make
และ
the
น้ำทำได้
experiment.
In the past, Thai students learned by memorizing. To become scientists of tomorrow, it's important to encourage kids to ask questions today. This is why we're so involved and why we want to spread this program across Thailand. The Little Scientist House program is in over 22,000 kindergartens across Thailand. Our hope is to reach all schools in Thailand, to help children become scientists of the future.
So I hope that is very good activities for the primary and the kindergarten children to have the experiment activity. So finally, but just as importantly, we share this integrated ecosystem as a proof of concept for the regions. Through the SEAMEO Success Hub, we remain committed to mutual growth and a cross-border synergy. And I often say that investing in early childhood care and education is not an expense, but it is the most powerful investment a nation can make for its future. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, Pak Priwat, for providing insightful and reflections on inclusive education system, especially in Thailand. Now I invite my brother, oh no, my brother, the same as Eddie Henry and Su Henry, yes, my my brother. And we have the same main face, sama-sama ganteng lah Pak. Yeah. All right, Pak Eddie Henry, the time is yours. Sorry.
Thank you, Pak Henry.
Yeah.
It's always good to be last. I can always refer to the two previous speakers to reference to. And I can reduce my slide from 120 to just mere 8. So slide please. So once again, good afternoon, everyone, distinguished guests and partners and colleagues. So I would like to pick up from what Kurniawan said earlier when we, and also Mr. Puriwat said about investment in early childhood. And I think if we are really serious about making sure that all children will have access to early child care and education, we are serious about investing in human capital development, then I think we need to start earlier, much earlier. And this is what my presentation would be. Next slide, please. So we know that early, I don't have to convince the converted already. Everyone here in this room already know that investment in early childhood is the most, brings the highest return. That's what we learned from Professor James Heckman, the Nobel laureate from Harvard. But we also know that the brain development happens the fastest during the first 3 years. 80% of brain development already happened by the time a child reaches 3 years old. So, and across ASEAN, we see a very strong push towards more investment into early childhood field, and also a very strong policy environment. And what we saw earlier this morning was a proof to that, that the roadmap is being developed for all member countries of ASEAN to refer to. But the stark reality is that millions of children still lack access to quality care, education, and nurturing environments. And I think this gap is not evenly distributed. It is disproportionately affects children from disadvantaged families and communities. So the challenge before us is not just about expanding access, but how do we ensure that impact, equity, and quality will happen at scale? So one of the biggest reasons of this gap is exactly where our systems begin. Next slide, please. So when you talk about early child care and education, and most of the ECCE systems in our region, focusing on the preschool years, typically age 4 to 6. But we learned earlier about brain development, and we also learned from OECD studies that 2 years at minimum spent in early childhood education can actually raise the literacy and numeracy skills or PISA score. Okay? And the younger they start, the better the result would be. So where we invest our funds, where we do most of our actions and implement our policy, is not exactly aligned or consistent with what studies and research tell us. So hence, we still have a huge gap. And this is what we say, the missing piece. In addition to the lack of access, many caregivers, parents, also lack access to structured guidance and resources and services. Usually, families with children of a younger age, the first access they would have for their young children would be the health and nutrition access. So again, we see a paradox here, where we invest later when it is more costly. and we underinvest early when it matters most. And I think this is why we need to rethink ECCE, not just an education, but also as a system. So most of us already know what Nurturing Care Framework is. It's a framework that developed by WHO, World Bank, and UNICEF. It gives us a powerful way to think about a system, not just a program. So child development depends, again, not only on early stimulation or education, but also on health, nutrition, responses, caregiving, and protection or safety. And when they need this service, it cannot be on one service alone. It has to be an integrated manner. So that requires coordination across health, education, and social systems. It also requires empowering parents because they are the children's first and most important teachers. Children will learn from their parents from the very beginning. What the parents do will reflect on how the children will do. And importantly, services must reach families where they are, at the community level. So how do we translate this into practice, where the real challenges lay? So we talk about almost the entire day today, talk about the providing the access to education, focusing more on the preschools. So when we talk about how do we deliver the last mile delivery for our early childhood beneficiaries, the biggest constraint is not policy, but it's on the delivery model. Services are often fragmented across sectors. Programs are being delivered by the ministries or government agencies with lack of coordination. And frontline capacity from health workers or community educators usually lack of competency required to deliver those services at quality level. Many parents remain underserved in terms of information and support. Even if the services are available and they may not be accessible, even when the service is accessible, they may not be of the quality or sufficient. So these challenges are even more pronounced in rural and disadvantaged areas. So the challenge for us is how do we deliver an integrated high quality services consistently at the last mile? In our experience, there are practical models that are already working. So our promising approach is community-based, integrated parenting, and early stimulation services. Tanata Foundation, we have two programs that are similar in running, one in China and one in Indonesia. In China, it's called HOPE program, and in Indonesia, we call it Rumana Sigap. And the main idea is to how do we provide the services, parenting services and early stimulation services under one roof to families who are in need, families with children under 3 years old. And how do we mobilize the community leaders, the village leaders, and communicators to provide those services to ensure that they will be sustainable. So the other model that we are currently working and establishing pilot is working with the Ministry of Health to integrate the early stimulation services into the health or primary health services. So the Ministry of Health currently are expanding their primary health services into Puskesmas Pembantu or Pustu. So how do we be able to provide those center-based services for families in need to access the services when they need it? So the models must be, number one, must be affordable, must be scalable, must be locally owned, and very importantly, must be effective and impactful in improving child development outcomes. When we bring services closer to families, we can reach the most vulnerable children more effectively. To achieve the scale, the models must be implemented beyond pilots. So the strength of integrating services in already existing infrastructure is obviously in terms of early capital investment. When an existing infrastructure already exists, then we know that there are manpower, there are resources already allocated, there are policies and regulations that will ensure that the services can be provided. And what we need to do is just to enhance and enlarge and add additional service to ensure that in this case, in the SPRING project, the early stimulation can be provided. So through the SPRING project, we are integrating parenting and early stimulation into the existing health and nutrition service at village level. At the same time, we look at this is not as competing service to the early child education or preschool, but in fact is complementary. The investment that we put at younger age will ensure that the children will be more ready to develop and to learn. So the principle that we implement here is quite simple. We leverage existing systems. We do not want to create a parallel system. And we integrate. By integration, there's a stronger coordination among sectors and also a sharing of data. So what does this mean for the region as we move forward? So based on our experiences, I would like to highlight some of the top priorities for us. First, we want to prioritize parenting and early stimulation, starting from the earliest days of life. And second, we want to scale community-based services that are accessible and integrated. Third, we'd like to invest in the front-end workforce, the people who deliver services every day. Fourth, we want to strengthen cross-sector coordination across ministries and agencies. And next, we want to ensure sustainable financing and governance. I think these are all in line with the current Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education's initiative. And together, these actions can help us move from pilots to systems. I think Mr. Puriwat earlier said, how do we translate the regional policy into local actions? So allow me to close with a final thought. If you want to close inequality, if you want to provide inclusivity, we must start where it begins, in the earliest years of life. Although the challenges is great, but the opportunity is clear, and the evidence is very strong. What we need now is to have a collective action across countries, sectors, and partners. Because when we invest early, we invest together. We do not just improve outcomes, but we also transform the future. So, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pak Henry Senior. All right, then, before we start the question and answer sessions, I should ask the committee, do you still have time to do that? Question and answer quiz? Mana berarti ya? Time is up ya, Bu Ella. Waduh, padahalnya saya udah nafsu ini, Bu, pengen nanya-nanya teman-temannya. All right. Because she said that the time is up for Anna because we are 1 hour left behind. So I'm sorry that we don't have answer questions. I believe that all of the participants here said bila mereka tidak menanya itu ada dua hal. Pertama itu paham sama sekali, yang kedua enggak paham sama sekali gitu. Mudah-mudahan yang paham sama sekali tadi itu. Alright, then it is I think the end of our presentation today, the sessions, and I would like to say that thank you so much for your participations and also the presentation as well. We really appreciate what you have done to us here, that I want to extend my high appreciations to our distinguished speakers here for your insightfuls and contributions and participants. Okay, then, and the committee says that there will be a small of appreciations to the speakers, right? Hanya untuk speakers nih teh, nggak ada untuk moderator, ada. Padahal sama loh gantengnya ini, ada. Apa memang kurang ganteng gitu? Okay, we have small appreciations to all speakers here, so yeah, after that. Komite sudah ready ini yang mau dikasih? Atau mungkin karena saya nggak dikasih karena beda amplop mungkin ini sayanya nih. Oh sudah siap. Kalau nggak question and answer aja kalau siap. Oh ada, masya Allah. Alright then, so we like to ask you to stand up that we have some. Siapa yang ngasihnya ini? Saya langsung. Waduh luar biasa. Ini ada Bu Vivi.
Yeah, we'd like to invite our moderator to hand over the token of appreciation to our esteemed speakers. Bapak Suhendri, please hand over the token of appreciation to all the speakers. What an amazing session, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, let's give a big round of applause for the meaningful exchange of ideas. Thank you so much once again to our esteemed speakers for sharing your valuable thoughts, ideas on this panel discussion. Once again, thank you so much, Dr. Puriwan Kawai-Kawin. Also, thank you to Mr. Kurniawan and Mr. Andy Henry. Ladies and gentlemen, after this, we will capture the moment with all the speakers and our moderator. Amazing, thank you so much. Gentlemen, please move forward for the photo opportunity. Yes, in front of the table. All right. You can show off the wayang as the token of appreciation. And please, give your biggest smile, ladies and gentlemen. Get ready. Okay, to look more professional, yeah? 3, 2, 1, cheers! Once again, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big round of applause. All right, everyone, with the same smile and the same spirit. Okay, traveling around the Bali Ocean. Cakep. Thank you, gentlemen, for the inspiring session. Once again, let's give a big round of applause to our moderators and speakers. Thank you so much, gentlemen. You can proceed back to your seat. Once again, this session has certainly given us a valuable perspective on advancing inclusive and high-quality early childhood education across the region. This also reminds us of the importance of collaboration in ensuring every child has access to quality early education. Ladies and gentlemen, after this, we will proceed to the next session, the second panel discussion. This session will discuss about strengthening the ECCE ecosystem through effective governance and collaboration among multiple stakeholders. And this session, for your information, will be moderated by Ibu Vivi Andriadi, Head of Bureau of Planning and Cooperation, Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education of the Republic of Indonesia. Let me introduce you to Ibu Vivi. She currently serves as the head of the Bureau of Planning and Cooperation at the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, KEMDIKDASMEN, since 2025. Prior to this role, she was the head of the Planning Bureau at the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research and Technology, Kemendikbudristek from 2022 to 2025. She also previously served as the head of the Subdirectorate for Primary and Secondary Education, Kasubdikdasmen, at the Directorate of Religion, Education and Culture at Bappenas from 2020 to 2022. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big round of applause to our moderator, Ibu Vivi Andriadi. Please join me on stage, our moderator, Ibu Vivi. Without further ado, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Mbak MC. So, ladies and gentlemen, you will have me for how much time do I have? 1 hour? Or probably less than 1 hour. So I hope that you all still have spirit and also energy to continue to the second session. So in this session, we will discuss and also have a presentation about strengthening the ECCE ecosystem that focus on effective governance and multi-stakeholder partnership. Bapak dan Ibu, and also my colleague from Ministry of Primary Secondary Education and also SEAMEO, and I still also saw Pak Jess from coordinating ministry still here. So in this session we will have 3 experienced panelists, speakers. First is, let me check, Ibu Maki Katsuno Hayashikawa. She is the Director of the UNESCO Regional Office in Jakarta and also UNESCO representative to Indonesia, Brunei Darussalam, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Timor-Leste. And also she is licensed to ASEAN. So, Ibu Maki, I will invite you to the stage. Thank you. Ibu dan Bapak, Ibu Maki has really extensive experience in this sector for education because she has been 30 years in a work experience for UNESCO, UNICEF, and JICA across a global and regional and also country level. And I will also invite the second speakers, Ibu Hani Yulindasari. She is from Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. Please, Ibu, I kindly invite you to the stage. Our second speaker, Ibu Hani, she's the Associate Professor in Psychology of Gender and Childhood Social Studies in UPI, Ibu. With over 24 years teaching experience. So probably I should go to UPI, Ibu, for continuing my study. Currently, she is also an active member of ECCE Council Indonesia, a national platform that serves as a think tank, ecosystem enabler, and also advocate for early childhood education and development in Indonesia. And also, I will kindly invite the third speakers from Cambodia, Mr. Prakosal. Please, Pak. Thank you, Pak Prakosal. Pak Prakosal comes from the Ministry of Education, Youth, Sport, and Ministry of Education, Youth, and Sport from Cambodia. Currently, he is the director of the Early Childhood Department, and also have so many experience in education. because he is already has 20 years working experience in the field of ECCE. And also currently he has led various initiatives related to the governance of public preschool, community preschool, daycare, private preschools, and also many other initiatives. So Bapak dan Ibu, someone prepare the poem for me, but I think I will deliver it after all the panelists, all the speakers, and also the discussion. I hope that we will have a few time for this discussions, not only presentation. So first, I will invite Ibu Maki to deliver the first presentation. Please, Ibu, time is yours.
So unlike the other, thank you very much, Babi, and greetings to my co-panelists, and good afternoon to everyone. It's also a very difficult time in the afternoon to focus at this after lunch, and then the first exciting session, and then the second one is always the challenging one to focus on. Unlike the previous, and probably unlike the other panelists, I don't really have a presentation. I felt like this meeting is also going to be a group of already converted. Probably most of you have more experience than I do in the area of early childhood. So I felt like maybe the best way was to talk about the theme with a bit of reflection over the years in this field. And I must really thank the organizers and the ministry, and also SEAMEO Secretariat for inviting me back. I was just joking to some of the friends around in the floor that I've been actually accompanied this whole process from the leaders' declaration in 2023 all the way today, the roadmap. I've been very privileged to be able to follow the process with the ASEAN countries. And earlier when the video showed on the very initial stage of the process, I saw myself wearing exactly the same jacket then. So this jacket is becoming my early childhood jacket now in the region. I thought of also saying reflection because I think the previous session already addressed a lot of related points on the theme of this session, which is about good governance, effective governance, and multi-stakeholder partnerships. I think all the three presentations touched upon all the aspects, each aspect on governance and partnership in specifically referring to their own programs. So it kind of leads in very nicely, flows into this session, focusing on this topic. Now, the reflection, because I think this region, I have to say that when it comes to Asia Pacific overall, beyond the Southeast Asia regional scope, the focus on early childhood care education in a very holistic manner has been only on the agenda of political agenda, I would say, only probably over the last 20 years. This really happened in so the children who were born when the conversation started in 2006 is now about 20 years old. And then, from that very beginning when UNICEF, UNESCO, Save the Children, we all worked together, or Plan International, we worked together on this policy review for the Asia Pacific. We had 9 countries participating. Out of 9, actually 6 countries were actually from Southeast Asia. So this region, the ASEAN region, actually had a very core group of experts and policymakers who were already 20 years ago already starting to see the importance of committing their policy priorities on early childhood, which after 2 years of that policy review project, we gave birth to ARNEC, which is now really guiding the whole entire region. But I think it is only the Southeast Asia region and ASEAN with the political leadership behind the whole work on early childhood is here in the ASEAN community. So for that, I think I have to really congratulate the ASEAN community for making this happen. Actually, Dr. Costa has been in that journey with me for many years. But I must say that over these 20 years, and we've done a lot of work in the region, looking at access, quality, relevance, teachers, financing, most recently on climate change and impact on early childhood. But I think governance was one issue that has been always kind of slipped aside, although it's embedded and is implied in the discussion we have. We cannot talk about coordination or partnership without really referring on governance, but there was really no clear, explicit discussion on governance. But earlier presentation actually already pointed to the fact that if you don't have good governance, we cannot sustain a good program. The policies, of course, can also, introduce the good governance mechanism. But if you look at early childhood not as a program but as a system, then the governance structure has to be there. The mechanism has to be there to gather resources and also a strong political leadership to push this through. And I think for the ASEAN, now we have the roadmap. The next challenge is really to set, I would say, very explicit direction for what kind of governance system you need to introduce to make sure that the practices that is already going on the ground is going to be sustained and maintained. And also, this is also very important because through good governance, we can make sure that our early childhood care and education provisions, the programs in the countries, will be equitable, accessible, inclusive, which are also the 3 key points that the previous panelists also emphasized. I also think that without good governance, you cannot really achieve good coordination. And intersectoral coordination is critical. It's key to ensuring quality early childhood care education. I think when we first talked about early childhood in a global development agenda with education for all in 1990s, early childhood was still very much a pre-prime education issue. Then, of course, we understood that pre-primary education is too limited to talk about early childhood. It started to expand, and now we have, of course, for us, it's nothing new. I mean, we take it for granted the holistic approach, integrated approach is a must in early childhood. But it has to be also supported by concrete policies around good coordination and governance. And I think for the international agenda, we also have to take responsibility here. I think one of the reasons why the fragmentation still continues, despite all the good high access rates in early childhood, I think this region, globally also, we have seen very, I would say, rapid growth in early childhood in terms of enrollment and accessibility. Countries have made enormous efforts investing in infrastructures and, building new early childhood care centers, community centers, kindergartens, whether it's more non-formal approach or formal approach. There's a lot of accessible, there's a lot of efforts to make sure the accessibility to early childhood care education provisions are expanded. But the international agenda often talks about access, well, sometimes on quality, but we also, if you realize that we talk about multi-sector partnership and coordination across different sectors, but the international development agenda is still very fragmented in itself. So when it comes to early child, we often refer to SDG 4, which is on education, and we have a dedicated target 4.2 on early childhood care education. Of course, a little bit heavier on pre-primary education, but it is supposed to be holistic. But we hardly talk about SDG 3 and health, which should also have implication on early childhood. We hardly talk about SDG 5 and gender, which is also linked to women's empowerment and maternity leaves and childcare for mothers in work. We hardly talk about SDG 6 on safe water access, and also even SDG 16, which is on institutional, peace and institutional. I'm sorry to lose my vocabulary at the late afternoon, but about human rights and peace and institutional structures, which is SDG 16, which we don't really talk in the context of early childhood. So the international development agenda is already fragmented in early childhood. So we have to now bring back the importance of coordination, importance of good governance into the international conversation ourselves from an early childhood perspective. I just want to also leave one point, is that recently I actually wanted to refer to the new global report on early childhood, which is supposed to come out this year. The first report was out in 2024, and the next report was supposed to come out this year, but I understood that report is only coming out around summer, so I had no latest information. But the Global Education Monitoring Report 2026 was just recently launched last month. This will be the first series among the 3 volumes under the major theme called the Countdown to 2030, because we only have 4 more years before we are supposed to reach 2030. And the first issue, which was just launched last month, focused on access and equity. And there is a specific analysis on pre-primary education, not really early childhood care education, it's more pre-primary education, yeah. Still, I think it gives you a good summary of the trends over the years, and they try to collect data on how the early childhood care education or pre-primary education sector has been evolving over the last 16 years, right? Because we only have. And one point that the GMR noted, specific on pre-primary, was a challenge in collecting consistent and reliable data on early childhood. And that is one of the major obstacles in ensuring good reporting and monitoring, and that also relates to good governance eventually in the early child ECCE sector. Now, we can see that data does show good progress in accessibility and so on, but it is really hard to assess progress even in pre-primary education, because there's some confusion in the data and how the data are used and measured. I guess it's because in the end, even pre-primary education, but early child care education is very intersectoral. And there is still not much coordination across different sectoral ministries on how data are shared, what age they're collecting the data on, because most of the data which relates to pre-primary education are also either age in school and it's not by levels, or how many children under 5 years old are served or not served. It's just so loose. And of course, some of the data could be available in different sector ministry, but that coordination is not there. So, of course, one key recommendation that they are putting out in the Global Education Monitoring Report is that there is a critical need for a good coordinating leading agency in each country for early childhood. Some countries do have them, and I think in Southeast Asia, many countries do have that coordinating agency now, but it's not yet globally widespread. So there should be a strong political leadership, a good coordinating entity that leads the agenda in the country, and policy regulations that comes along with it. So I think that's an important message that I actually got from this Global Education Monitoring Report, which is not only about pre-primary or ECCE, but it does link into the other sectors as well, and just wanted to kind of bring that forward for this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Maki. Applause for her. It's very important remarks from you, Ibu. Remembering about the collaboration, also governance, coordination, really important. So it's not only the effort to improve the ECCE, ECCD, but yeah, probably the one that lacking is how we also put several measures for the coordination across sector, across country, and also multi-stakeholder, and yeah. And also, Ibu Maki remind us about the 2030 agenda that we should, give so much effort for the achievement, because Indonesia also have a high commitment for the tujuan 4 is the goal 4 and other goals related to the education, and it's probably it's important related to the global education monitoring report. Yeah. Probably we also in Indonesia we have also put concern related to the data, because we also have a problem about the education data, and especially for the ECCE and ECCD also, because it's not only education, but it's care and also development. Okay, applause for Ibu Maki once more. And we have the second speakers, Ibu Hani, please. Ibu Hani, time is yours.
Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, partner, and friends, it is a privilege to join you today at this important forum. We are here not only to launch a roadmap, but to celebrate the collective visions and dedication that has brought us to this moment. I want to begin by expressing my heartfelt appreciation for the commitment each of you has shown to early childhood education and care. So this roadmap is a reflection of your work, our ideas and aspiration for the children of Southeast Asia. So I prepared the presentation together with my colleagues, Ibu Dwi Purwestri and Pak Iwan Aris Setiawan, who were involved intensively in the development of the roadmap. So this presentation is actually how we see the roadmap can be useful to strengthen the ECCE ecosystem. Sometimes I press wrong button. The strength of this roadmap lies in the diversity of voices that shaped it. Policymakers, educators, researchers, civil society, development partners, and communities, we are the ecosystem. Our contribution ensures that ECCE is not just a policy priority, but a lived reality for children and families. Today, we honor that collective effort and look forward to how this roadmap can guide us forward. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. This roadmap is not a rigid prescription. It is a flexible compass. It respects the diversity of our region while uniting us around shared priorities. It highlights 7 key areas: expanding access, enhancing quality, strengthening the workforce, improving governance and partnerships, empowering parents, leveraging digital technology, and mobilizing resources. These are not abstract goals. They are practical pathways to ensure that every child in Southeast Asia receives nurturing care and quality early educations. As the document itself reminds us, ECCE must be play-based, culturally responsive, sustainable, and right-based. These principles ensure that our roadmap is not only technically sound, but morally grounded. Next, please. Yeah, thank you. So how do we make this roadmap truly useful for building the ECCE ecosystem? First, we have to translate vision into actions. Each country can adapt the roadmap into national and local plans. It becomes useful when it informs budgets, teacher training, and monitoring systems. Second, we need to strengthen governance structures. ECCE requires coordinations across ministries of education, health, and social welfare. The roadmap encourages us to break silos and create mechanisms where ECCE is everyone's responsibility. Third, we need to invest in partnership. Governments alone cannot achieve this. Communities, NGOs, universities, and the private sectors all have roles to play. The roadmap provides a platform for dialogue, resource sharing, and innovations. And fourth, we need to build capacity and shared knowledge. Southeast Asia is rich in diverse experiences. By documenting and exchanging best practices, like we did today, the roadmap becomes a regional library of solutions. And fifth, we really need to monitor progress collectively. With its monitoring evaluation framework, the roadmap is not static. By tracking indicators together, we can celebrate achievements, identify gaps, and adjust strategies. This makes it a dynamic instrument for accountability and learning. So in short, the roadmap is most useful when it's lived, when it guides decisions, inspires partnerships, and evolves with our collective experience. Next. Let me emphasize this. So this roadmap is not owned by any single institution. It is a shared asset of Southeast Asia. It embodies our collective commitment to children. By endorsing it, we are not simply agreeing to a plan. We are pledging to work together across borders and sectors to strengthen the ECCE ecosystem for generations to come. It is a tool for governments, but also for communities, for parents, for educators. It is a symbol of our shared belief that every child deserves the best possible start in life. Next, my last slide. Yeah. Dear colleagues, the future of ECCE in Southeast Asia will not be written by this roadmap alone. It will be written by our actions, our partnership, and our unwavering belief that every child deserves quality care and education. So let us carry this roadmap forward, not as a document to be shelved, but as a guide we use, adapt, and enrich together. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ibu. So, actually, at first I will help about the. Okay. Okay, so we will have Mr. Prakosal for the third presentation. So, if you have presentation, so you will present the presentation, but it's up to you, Pak Prakosal. So time is yours, Pak. But do you need also the
slide?
Okay. Do you need help for?
Okay. So the very good afternoon, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, and the colleagues from ANEC, from the SEAMEO GCEP, and the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education of Republic of Indonesia. I am on behalf of the early childhood education in Cambodia. I would like to bring the model of the experience in Cambodia. It's the model of the preschool standard. It's a new one that the Ministry of Education put to reform from the early childhood, from the preschool to secondary school. That called model preschool standard in Cambodia. Yes, this session I'd like to discuss in 3 areas. The first one I'd like to share with the current situation in the about the early childhood education in Cambodia, focusing on the preschool. And the second point, I'd like to share you about the area of the model preschool standard. And the third is the closed session. This is the preschool. The preschool in Cambodia. We have 3 types of preschool in Cambodia. We have the private preschool. They use the international curriculum or local curriculum. And we also have the public preschool, and we have the community preschool. This is the 3 types of the preschool in Cambodia. Assisting in the like the community preschool, mostly in the rural area, and supported by the development partner and NGO, and the public preschool, mostly in the supported by the government budget. And the private preschool that they own, like they earn, and they bring different curriculum from outside. Yep, the number of the preschool, all types of the preschool by program. We have the private preschool and the community preschool and public preschool. The public preschool is covered by the government until the school year 2026. We have the more than 4,700 preschool, and the community preschool we have 3,418 community preschool, and the private preschool mostly in the city only we have more than 1,000 private preschool. Totally we have more than 9,000 preschool in Cambodia. And for the enrollment rate of the children in Cambodia, the early childhood, the preschool service provide for the children age 3 to 5 years old, 3 and 4 and 5 years old. That until today, for the 5 years old, we have the almost 80% of the 5 years old children before they move to grade 1 of primary school. And but unluckily to the children age 3 and 4 still the same the last school year. This is the enrollment rate of the preschool in Cambodia. And I'd like to talk the area of the model preschool standard. Basing on the Royal Government of Cambodia has introduced the measure to enhance the quality of education by focusing on improving the quality of the public school by starting from the preschool to secondary school education through the strengthening of the key tasks, including 4 areas. The first one is strengthening school governance, and the second one, reviewing, revising, and developing the educational program and extracurriculum activity to meet the need of the strengthening student knowledge and discipline, moral, and behavior of the children. And the third point, focusing on the student health through nutrition support program for the children and monitoring the quality of the food in school. And the fourth point is promoting and encouraging the participation of the parent, guardian, and the community and in education in line with the spirit of the public community partnership for education. This is the fourth priority putting by the Royal Government of Cambodia. And this is the objective of the model preschool in Cambodia, focusing on the 3 points. The first point, to strengthening the quality of the preschool management, committee in managing and leadership to ensure that all stakeholders are aware of the responsibility of the preschool education in order to improving effective of the teaching and learning to enhance the quality of the children's education. And the second point, to measure the level of the effectiveness and quality early childhood education. And the third point is in ensuring the quality and sustainable of the preschool education. This is the 5 areas of the preschool standard in Cambodia. By the standard 1, focusing on the standard 1, focusing on the student learning outcome. The student learning outcome is including enrollment of children, student retention, student learning outcome, student nutrition status, and also children moral and the behavior of children. This is for the standard 1 where we covers. And standard number 2 for the teaching and learning by including implementation of the new teaching method and the implementation of the curriculum and preparation of the teaching plan, learning and teaching material support, student library, including the internal inspection plan as well. And the standard number 3, focusing on the community participation, including the establishment and the operation of the school management committee, community participation, and community support for the preschool. And standard number 4, focusing on the school operational and administration. This is about the school governance. Will be covered to the general management and the administration of the school, and school development plan, teacher performance, children assessment, and the promotion of the health, education, and nutrition in the preschool level. And the standard number 4, focusing on the school accountability, including the public meeting, forum, and also public information dissemination, and receive the support from the national and subnational level as well. This is the 5 area of the model school, preschool standard in Cambodia. Just putting in the from 2023 and until today we have 3 years of age this standard. Finally, the model preschool standard serve as a tool for evaluation with all relevant parties, such as district level and provincial level, as well as the line ministry, institute, and development partner can use this as a model that to support in the school level. And this is the impact when we ensure the quality of the implementing the model preschool standard. The impact will be directly to the children. They have the quality and the also community that can collect. We will collecting the children enrollment, not out of school children, and also the parent have time to do the business as well. And the national will be in the long-term impact as human capital and economic growth as well. This is the preschool standard in Cambodia, just a new model that I can share to everyone here. Thank you very much for my presentation.
Thank you so much, Pak Prakosal. It's a really interesting case of Cambodia doing improving the service for ECCE. So there's an interesting thing, Pak Prakosal, is related to the how the country really have a structure planning. It's not only related to the how to improve the enrollment, but also related to the teaching, learning, and then it's also the standard and the accountability of the school. And I think the Cambodia have the public preschool more than private and community. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So give applause for our 3 speakers. And allow me to give, probably, do we still have time, like probably 10 minutes for discussion? 2 minutes? Oh, okay. So we still have time, Ibu Maki, Bu Hani, and Pak Prakosal. Probably I will invite to from participant if you have a question to our 3 outstanding speakers. Please. From Bunda PAUD, we still have Bunda PAUD? You can also deliver the question in Indonesian if you willing. Okay. Okay, probably. Okay, please, Bu. So please introduce yourself briefly, and then also the question also brief.
Okay, thank you. I would like to ask in bahasa Indonesia. Is it okay? Ya. Nama saya Tinayati Dahlan. Saya dari Sekolah Pasca Sarjana Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. Saya adalah praktisi di dalam pendidikan keluarga. Sekarang ini saya melihat bahwa yang saya amati, jadi ini bukan hasil penelitian sebetulnya, yang saya amati adalah parenting education itu belum terintegrasi dengan pendidikan anak usia dini. Jadi kalau saya lihat masih parsial, di mana biasanya memang di dalam di TK-TK ataupun di PAUD ada sekolah-sekolah yang mengadakan parenting apa ya, bukan kelas mungkin, hanya pertemuan orang tua, tapi ada juga parenting yang memang masuk ke dalam program, tapi sebetulnya saya lihat tidak embedded gitu ya dalam pendidikan anak usia dini. Sedangkan saya berpikir atau dalam pemahaman saya bahwa pendidikan anak usia dini itu sebetulnya adalah pendidikan orang tua. Jadi bukan hanya anak usia dini, dikarenakan orang tua juga perlu teredukasi bagaimana memberikan stimulasi kepada putra-putrinya ya, karena memang selama ini tidak ada pendidikan orang tua. Jadi saya di sini dalam pemahaman saya pendidikan orang tua itu dasarnya itu ada di pendidikan anak usia dini. Karena mengingat juga di dalam setiap keluarga itu kan memiliki pengalaman yang berbeda-beda. Misalnya ya, kalau generasi saya dulu kan generasi VOC katanya ya, VOC parenting. Tetapi kan kalau generasi sekarang itu biasanya mengimplementasikan yang gentle parenting. Tapi di lapangan juga itu sebetulnya masih bias ya, apakah itu gentle parenting atau sebetulnya lebih ke permisif. Jadi pertanyaan saya ataupun juga mungkin pendapat saya adalah pendidikan anak usia dini itu sebetulnya juga adalah pendidikan orang tua, dan bagaimana sebetulnya kita semua bisa mengembangkan hal tersebut gitu secara komprehensif. Terima kasih.
Ibu, pertanyaan akan disampaikan kepada siapa?
Bisa ketiganya karena memang ini juga kan karena ini juga kan berkaitan dengan bagaimana misalnya egalitarian dalam pendidikan anak laki-laki dengan juga perempuan.
Ibu siapa tadi Ibu? Maaf.
Dengan Tina.
Ibu Lina.
Tina.
Yeah. So Ibu Tina asking about the parenting education. So in early childhood education, it's not only about children, but also educate the parents. So how to do that comprehensively in a level of ECCE. But do you mind to wait? Because we also have one participant to ask a question, Pak. Ada satu lagi, oh ya, silakan Pak, nama dan kemudian juga kepada siapa bertanya.
Ya, terima kasih. Saya akan bicara dalam bahasa Indonesia.
Ya, silakan.
Begini, tadi saya dengar dari paparan dari teman dari Kamboja. Saya melihat dari preschool, community preschool, ya begitu jumlahnya hampir 9.000. Yang saya tanyakan itu mengenai bagaimana preschool, community preschool ini dia bekerja sama dengan pemerintah, dan ini juga sudah diundang-undangkan untuk memberikan wewenang kepada komunitas untuk mengelola preschool community ini atau bagaimana? Ini yang perlu saya kurang jelas supaya sebagai suatu referensi bagi kami. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih. Bapak siapa, mohon maaf Pak?
Oh maaf, Domingos Belo Suarez dari Kementerian Pendidikan.
Oke, terima kasih. Ya. So Pak Domingos asking
Timor
about
Leste.
Timor Leste. He asking about how to allocate. I think it's about authority in education services in Cambodia, Pak Prakosal. Yeah, because you have like 9,000 preschool, and not all of the school is owned by government, because there are preschool owned by community and also private. So how the collaboration being done between parties, and also probably the how to allocate the authority that can make the private and also community to do the service in early childhood education. That's the question. The first question first. because the first question is for 3 speakers. So, probably Ibu Maki and also Ibu Hani, do you have perspective and also views related to the how to educate parents? Okay.
So, because the question is in Indonesian, is it okay if I answer in Indonesian as well, or okay? Maybe I'll do mix. Yeah, I agree with. Katanya bahasa Indonesia ya, oke. Saya setuju sekali bahwa orang tua itu masuk ke dalam komunitas ECCE. Jadi kita juga harus memperkuat orang tua juga. Memang selama ini ada challenges ya untuk melibatkan orang tua karena orang tua juga harus bekerja, sedangkan ECCE Center itu biasanya operate dalam jam kerja orang tua. So orang tua sangat kesulitan untuk terlibat di situ. Kita harus memikirkan bagaimana caranya supaya orang tua bisa terlibat di dalam katakanlah praktek pengasuhan pendidikan anak usia dini bersama-sama dengan guru, dan orang tua bisa dikuatkan keterampilan parentingnya. Tapi kita memikirkan juga waktu yang tersedia untuk orang tua. Kita bisa memilih misalnya penguatan keterampilan pengasuhan orang tua itu di waktu-waktu after work atau weekend mungkin ya. Nah, ini harus dipikirkan. Beda daerah pasti beda kebiasaan orang tuanya, beda alokasi waktunya gitu ya. Pengalaman saya dulu waktu tinggal di Australia, setiap kegiatan parenting itu dilaksanakan after hour. Jam 5, jam 7 supaya bisa terlibat. Karena kalau tidak begitu, pada akhirnya orang tua yang bisa terlibat dalam kegiatan-kegiatan parenting di ECCE Center itu adalah orang tua yang memang punya waktu, sedangkan orang tua yang bekerja akan sangat kesulitan. Bagaimana kita melibatkan atau meng-outreach, menggapai orang tua yang juga harus bekerja, inilah PR kita. Program-program untuk penguatan keterampilan orang tua dalam pengasuhan, dalam stimulasi anak usia dini mulai dari 0 sampai 6 tahun di Indonesia, itu sebetulnya sudah cukup banyak. Salah satu program yang saya tahu cukup berhasil adalah program yang tadi dipresentasikan oleh Pak Edi dari Tanoto Foundation, yaitu Rumah Anak Sigap. Rumah Anak Sigap itu program yang sangat baik karena fokusnya adalah bagaimana meningkatkan keterampilan orang tua dalam menstimulasi perkembangan anak secara holistik integratif gitu ya. Jadi fokusnya bukan langsung ke anaknya tetapi lebih ke bagaimana mengajarkan orang tua untuk menstimulasi anaknya di rumah. Program-program seperti itu saya rasa perlu di upscale gitu ya, perlu diperbanyak gitu. Tapi sekali lagi kita juga harus mencari cara bagaimana untuk tidak hanya menyentuh orang tua yang memang punya waktu saja. Tapi juga kita bisa menyentuh orang tua yang memang harus bekerja seperti saya. Ibu bekerja dari pagi sampai sore, waktu anak-anak saya kecil agak sulit untuk terlibat di kegiatan-kegiatan sekolah, kalau kegiatan sekolah itu di jam kerja. Selain itu, saya rasa juga masalah parenting ini kan masalah kesiapan orang tua untuk menjadi orang tua juga ya. Jadi harus ada mungkin pre-parent education. Jadi pendidikan sebelum menjadi orang tua. Mungkin itu dari saya, Bu Vivi, sementara Bu Tina.
Ya, baik. Terima kasih Bu Hani. Would you like to add several message for Ibu?
If I understood the question, sorry, I left my interpreter's casket
Oh,
at the
okay.
table. I could have had it, so I would have understood better. But I understand the challenge of engaging parents or how to provide for parental need, parenting. Right. Well, I mean, I would actually put it under this the context of the theme of this panel session, the governance and multi-stakeholder partnership. But I think when it comes to parents, I mean, I am not the practitioners here, so of course, you know, my reference will be from different countries and cases that we have also been researching. But I think parents have to be convinced, of course, to be engaged first, yeah, to see the value of early childhood. And we do see that in different countries where there has been very visible benefit to the parents or the family, they tend to support, you know, having their children to be sent to early childhood care programs or centers. And also when there is more respect to the cultural practices in that community, because you cannot really force and take the children away from the family when there's a cultural preference to keep children closer to the family, right? But then, of course, there are also benefits when if the family environment, the household does not have sufficient, you know, toys or reading materials, which could be disadvantaging the child when they enter primary school. Of course, sending to a child care center in the community base, for example, might be more beneficial to the child, and then parents can see that benefit of sending them as well. So outreach is very important. I think you mentioned outreach probably. But then this is also, it's also a policy matter because parents sit in somewhere between the so-called supply side policy and the demand side policy. And early childhood has to be a good balance between both supply and demand. You can supply the provider of early childhood provisions. It could be government or it could be private sector, but you can supply and then parents will accept and receive those provisions, thinking it's good. But also there has to be a demand side because you can't just keep supplying the provision and there is no parent or family convinced receiving it. So you have to make sure that the provision early childhood also have to be based on demand-driven arrangement. And I think what is also important is that these services has to be accessible and available anytime and also acceptable. So it's available, accessible, and acceptable, yeah? And usually we see many cases where the government decide that they will make early childhood or ECCE provision compulsory. So in a way, obliging families to send their children. At the beginning, maybe sometimes there could be resistance, but in the longer term, it sometimes succeeds in getting children into primary school, and then parents see the advantage afterwards. There could be also a provision where countries have provided not compulsory but made it free of charge. Then there will be more willingness for parents to send because it could have financial benefit to the family by sending the kids to early childhood care, where they could also ensure some healthy, nutritious food for children where they cannot provide at the home. And then, of course, mother's labor opportunity, work opportunity is one element that often convinces parents to be engaged more in early childhood care education. But parents' engagement is not just about having the children in ECCE provision. It's also about parents engaging in looking at the program. You know, they could also have a say. They should have a say in what kind of learning opportunities, care opportunities should be provided through the provision that is provided, and that is more the demand side that we should look at. But it has not been always an easy discussion when it comes to parents, because we have to also respect that parents have their own philosophy, their own principles, and the right to choose. Yeah? So interestingly, many of the high-income countries, the early childhood provision could be free, but they're not necessarily compulsory. Like given my own country, Japan, it's free. In many cases, it's now free, but it's not compulsory because you give the parents a choice because it's not compulsory education. But in countries where pre-primary 1 year is now compulsory, of course, it actually gives more benefits to poorer family, low-income families. So it's to I think one has to see what kind of context that early childhood provisions are operating in. Maybe I'll stop here and Dr. Kosal.
Okay, Pak Kosal. If you want to respond first related to the parenting, but probably because Ibu Hani and also Ibu Maki already give some perspective about parenting, probably do you mind if you focus related to the how to manage or arrange how the arrangement being done between the government and also the private sector and community. Community, yeah. This, Pak Rakosa.
Thank you very much for your question. Representative from the GB member from Timor-Leste, that interesting about the community preschool in Cambodia. When we talk about the early childhood education, all of educators cannot work alone. We need to work together from different stakeholders. If we think about national level, Ministry of Education work together with Ministry of Interior, work together with Ministry of Women Affairs to prepare to issue the guideline, inter-ministry guideline to guide the local government, especially community level. About the community preschool in Cambodia, you know, the background is supported by the NGO, supported by development partner, not government fund. During the EFA, enrollment rate is very important. So the community preschool have the power to reach out the services to the very remote area and disadvantaged area. This is a community preschool that's supported by development partner, including NGO, INGO, international NGO, something like that, that go to the very remote area. And they support to commune council, they support to commune leader to create, to establish the community preschool. They have the contract, they have the NGO support to build a community preschool shelter, and commune council have to contribute some fund, provide like the community preschool teacher, and NGO also provide training to the community preschool, something like that. And different style of the community preschool from different development partner, like UNICEF support around the UNICEF zone, and Save the Children focusing on the home-based, called home-based program in 6 different provinces, and UNICEF provide the community preschool in 6 different provinces, and also home-based program as well. So they have to work together between the national level, they have to work together with relevant ministry, and local level, work together with the governor and commune leader to discuss about a stipend for, not say salary, but called stipend, because the stipend is not the same. Basing on the commune council, they can contribute together with the development partner. This is about the community preschool. And the teacher, community preschool teacher, we select for the volunteer people who have education background, like in lower secondary school, that we can recruit them as a volunteer, and we provide training before they teach the children. This is the model of community preschool in the background. And then until today, the community preschool, we have in 2 kinds of community preschool. One is the community preschool meet the minimum standard, will covered by the government fund. Until today, we have the 1,438 community preschool that covered by the government budget. And remaining community preschool still keep commune level will pay, including the teacher stipend and also operational fund. We're responsible by commune level together with some development partner. This is the model of community preschool in Cambodia. Thank you very much for the interesting.
Okay, thank you. I think the time is up. Ibu Maki, Bu Hani, and Pak Prakosal. But thank you so much for your few very rich remarks about the ECCE, how being done, the coordination, also the collaboration across sector and multi-stakeholder, and also the example on how Cambodia doing services in early childhood care and education. So, applause for our three distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen. But before we end the session, we will have a small token of appreciation for all the speakers. Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, let's give a big round of applause to the amazing speakers and moderator. Please stand up, ladies and gentlemen, as we'd like to give the token of appreciation that will be given by Bapak Widodo Suhartoyo, Deputy Director for Program SEAMEO Sisa. Bapak Widodo, please join us on stage to hand over the token of appreciation to our moderator, Ibu Vivi Andriani, and also all the speakers, Ms. Maki Katsudo, Dr. Hani Yulindrasari, and Mr. Park Kosa. Once again, thank you so much, Ibu Vivi, for leading such a fruitful discussion. What an inspiring panel discussion. And of course, thank you so much to all the amazing speakers, Ms. Maki Katsudo Hayashikawa from UNESCO Jakarta. Thank you to Dr. Hani Yulindrasari from Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia. Thank you so much, Doctor, for sharing valuable insight and thoughtful discussion. And last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to thank Mr. Park Kosa from Ministry of Youth, Education and Sport, Cambodia. Thank you so much for coming here today. And once again, we'd like to invite each and every one of you to please step forward for the photo opportunity. Bapak Widodo, please join us for the photo session. Izin Bapak mungkin di tengah, Pak Widodo. Alright. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, please give your biggest smile facing to the camera in 3, 2, 1. Let's give a big round of applause once again to the amazing speakers and moderator. One last picture, everyone. Give your biggest smile. Thank you so much. To Bapak Widodo, Ibu Vivi, Ms. Maki, Dr. Hani, and Mr. Park, you can pass it back to your seat. Once again, thank you so much for being here on the second panel discussion. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I know it's already late and maybe some of us may be starting to feel a bit tired, but we still have one more panel discussion, and I promise you that this one would be very insightful and very, very thoughtful. So ladies and gentlemen, let's take a quick moment to reset. Maybe we can shake our hands, maybe we can roll our shoulders back and take a deep breath in and out. And today, ladies and gentlemen, before we move on to the final panel discussion, I would like to, just to know the quick energy check, and I want you to follow my cues. Whenever I say hi, please everybody say hello. Hi. Whenever I say hello, please say hi. Hello. Hi. Hello. So whenever I say thank you, please clap your hand. Thank you. Hi. Hello. Hi, hi. Hi, hello, hi, hello. Hi, 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 hi. Hello, hi, hello, hi. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's give a big round of applause to each and every one of us, ladies and gentlemen. So without further ado, To wrap up this session, we'd like to have another panel discussion. And this time, ladies and gentlemen, this session will explore the future of ECCE, including the challenges and opportunities in preparing children for a rapidly changing world. So allow me to introduce you to our moderator, Bapak Iwan Aris Setiawan, Senior Strategic and Policy Leader. He is an experienced policy and systems leader with over 20 years of service in Indonesia's Ministry of Education and SEAMEO. He specializes in strategic frameworks, institutional systems, and regional collaboration across ASEAN. So without further ado, let's put our hands together to Bapak Iwan Aris Setiawan. Over to you, Bapak Iwan.
Thank you, Mbak MC, for your kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Iwan. And this is a really pleasure. It is an honor to be a moderator for this third plenary. Yes. Because the first session we're talking about the importance of governance. The second session we're talking about the multi-stakeholder partnership. Now we turn to the important topics about how ECCE system can be strengthened in the future. We have two main topics or question about how ECCE system anticipate and respond to emerging global challenges, including technological transformation, climate change, and persistent inequalities. And then the second will be, there will be how structural constraint within ECCE can be addressed, particularly disparities in access and quality, limited resources, and workforce capacity. And I am really honored to be joined with three exceptional and outstanding ladies. I will introduce the three of our speakers to this session. The first we have Professor Vina Adriani, professor at Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, and also the director of SEAMEO Secretariat. Please join me to warmly welcome Prof. Vina Adriani. Her work focuses. Yes, her work focuses on the gender, inclusion, equity, and policy in early childhood education. And our second panelist is Ms. Evelyn Santiago. Welcome, Ms. Evelyn Santiago. Thank you for joining us. She is the Executive Director of Asia Pacific Regional Network for Early Childhood, or we call it ARNEC, with the she led initiative in child development, strategic planning, and partnership building across the region in Southeast Asia and Asia Pacific. And then the third, please welcome Dr. Ho Pham, the lecturer of Faculty of Early Childhood Education at Hanoi National University of Education. Please join us. Thank you, ladies, for joining us in our discussion. I think we will have 10 minutes or 15 minutes for each speakers. So without further ado, I will invite Professor Vina Adriani to start the presentation. Prof. Vina, the floor is yours.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good afternoon. I know this is a very challenging time. think everybody wants to go home, so I'll be very brief and very quickly. So first of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the committee, the Directorate of Early Childhood Education at the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education for inviting me to become part of the panels. Just like Dr. Maki said, I feel very sentimental today because I've been also part of the journey of this roadmap. And I think we talked in the morning, Dr. Maki, that this is exactly 3 years after the roadmap was initiated. So if it was a baby, now the roadmap is already 3 years old actually. Yeah? So it's already past the first 1,000 days of life. So now we look forward to continue working together. So again, I'm here in the room full of experts, so I don't think I have to repeat many things that many of you has already known. So allow me because the theme for this panel is on future ECCE. So I think I would like to talk about the current situation that many ECCE are facing all around the globe, not only in Southeast Asia, but also I would like to highlight the possibility for hope. And I think it's very important in today's geopolitical climate to talk about the pedagogy of hope, which I think to some extent provide us with some sort of like imaginary and also aspiration to move forward. So next, please. So I think one of the things that nowadays becomes quite a dominant features in early childhood education and also in the construction of childhood is this uncertainty situation. I think at the moment, children all around the globe, they are facing a lot of uncertainty, a lot of crisis resulted from the climate changes. I think Evelyn will be talking about that a little bit more details, but also a lot of uncertainty, as I've mentioned before, resulted from the geopolitical situation. Next, please. So I think when we talk about early childhood education in the Asian context in Southeast Asia, I think there is an intersecting crisis that shape the life condition of young children and also the practice of early childhood care education. Or as Dr. Maki keeps on reminding us that we need to talk beyond education, yeah, when we talk about the life of young children. So again, as I've mentioned before, the climate changing, climate disruption, happenings all around the world. We also have learning interruption. Few years ago, the learning was interrupted because of the COVID, and nowadays because of the ongoing war and ongoing genocide, I think it's also affected many learning situations in a lot of countries, including in the Southeast Asian. And also at the same time, I think it has been mentioned by previous speakers as well that there is this persistent and also deepening inequalities. And I think that's why this roadmap becomes very important, because one of the core message of this roadmap is to ensure that a high quality early childhood, not only early childhood education services, but also the high quality early childhood development services can reach to the most vulnerable and most marginalized children. And I think going back again to the first panel that talks about how can we tackle the barrier in order to ensure that inclusivity can really be achieved in early childhood sectors is really the question. And at the moment, I really like what Dr. Maki mentioned before, that when we talk about a fragmented system, it's also happening at the global stage. I think it's sort of like a good reminder and also a good reflection, because now we are moving to 2030. But I think, again, if we look at the Sustainable Development Goals, to some extent, it's still very much fragmented. And I think to some extent, it's also affect the way early childhood development is being organized and also is being provisioned in many countries. And there is also policy gaps, and this is, I think, the challenge of this roadmap. How can we ensure that this roadmap is not only a policy papers, but it can be translated? I think Dr. Hani mentioned before that it's not only to be self, but most importantly, how can we move forward with this roadmap? And I think when we talk about early childhood development, early childhood education in particular, we cannot forget about the workforce situation. I think all around the globe, we have a crisis of the teaching workforce in early childhood education sector. Early childhood education is often viewed as one of the lowest status and also lowest wages profession all around the world, and I think it has a lot of things to do with the gender construction, that position caring as an extension of motherhood, and because it is seen as an extension of motherhood, then it doesn't have to be treated as a professional services. And I think this is something that we also need to question. And also, we talk a lot about children's well-being, but sometimes we forget that teachers' well-being and also mothers' well-being, because all over the globe, again, early childhood education is still primarily seen as the responsibility of the mother. I think there is a very an interesting quote posted by ECD Council a couple days ago. It says that we often talk about the first 1,000 days as the most important milestone for young children, but we forget that the first 1,000 days is very often the most difficult times for a mother as well. Postpartum depression is happening all around the globe, and so forth. Next, please. Next. Yes. So I think we need to sort of like reframe the central question. I think very often we talk about early childhood education as a place to prepare the children for the future jobs. But I think most importantly, we need to try to build ECCE system in a way that it actively transforms the condition that produce uncertainty in the first place. Meaning it's not only to prepare the children, but how can we ensure that the whole system, so it's really a call to go beyond education. It's really a call to strengthen the early childhood development service that we have always promoted since a couple years ago. Next, please. Yeah, so again, with all the crises that's happening all around the globe, I think as ECCE is really at the front line of the crisis, but I also would like to invite us to still preserve some aspect of positivity, because early childhood education can also become the front line of possibility. I think it has, I think a lot of speech that has been presented today has sort of like reiterated that early childhood education is indeed a form of investment, but I think sometimes we need to go beyond the word of investment. It is also a place where social justice can be achieved. It is also a space that allows inclusion, equity, and equality to take place. Yeah. Next, please. I think we can skip this one. Yeah. So, again, sorry for the repetition. Going on again, please. Please. Next, please. Okay. So, when we talk about, because the title of my presentation is on how can we weave between hope and also resilience. So when we talk about resilience, I think very often we tend to individualize the notion of resilience. So, and when we talk about the resilient expectation, we need to realize that these notions are not evenly distributed. Very often we ask children from marginalized background, from vulnerable background to be resilient. But I think we need to talk beyond individual notion of resilience. Resilience has to be seen at the system level. I think we need to understand the invisible structure behind the visible struggle, that when the child are in the marginalized or vulnerable position, there are systems that allows them to be in that position. And I think we need to question that system. And this is really the ethical question of responsibility. Who is responsible to let the children become resilient? And I think one of the things that I would like to propose, it's obviously not the children's responsibility, it's not only the parents' responsibility, but it's really the whole system responsibility. And I think we need to move beyond that individualized notion of resilience to more ecosystem, ecological understanding of resilience. And by doing so, we sort of like reclaim accountability at the system level. And I think it has to do, when we talk about mobilized funding, I agree with Dr. Maki that perhaps the notion of compulsory needs to be redefined, but I think at the same time it is also important to ensure that there is a universal access to early childhood education if the parent choose to do so, because for many children, especially from those who are coming from marginalized background, I think economic factor remains one of the biggest factors that prevent them from accessing high quality early childhood development. Next, please. Again, here in this presentation, I sort of would like to, play around with the notion of hope. I think we need to see hope as part of the pedagogical act. It's not, it's not an imaginary concept, but it is something transformative. So I think the way we position hope at early childhood education, we need to see hope as a form of political act by putting hope back at the center of the whole ecosystem of early childhood education. We sort of like reimagine alternative future, alternative practices, alternative pedagogy that see education as a space that will allow the children to be who they are. And also by putting hope at the center, we sort of like reject the deficit narrative of children and communities. And I think one of the things that I would like to propose here, and I think it has been proposed also by previous speakers, is that to really utilize the local strength, whether it is the culture, the local knowledge that can allow early childhood education to happen. And also hope needs to be something as, it have to be seen as something which is grounded in the everyday practices. And again, we've been talking a lot about the importance of play, the importance of caring, and I think the bridge to connect play and also caring and also education lies in the notion of hope. So hope should be seen as something collective. It is not something individual. Again, we should not put this notion as the responsibility of the children alone, but what is very important is that allowing the notion of hope to become part of the system. Next. Yeah. So one of the things that I think it also has been discussed by previous speaker, but when we talk about how can we develop resilience, how can we establish hope beyond the classroom, I think again we need to understand, especially in Southeast Asia, I think community plays a very important role. And I think this is also one of the strengths of Southeast Asia. In Indonesia, we have the notion of gotong royong. And I'm sure in another country, there is also a similar notion, which basically the idea to mobilize the community in order to ensure that all child can have access to high quality education. So I think community can really become a strength, and we need to recognize that. In order for us to do so, we need to move beyond the deficit notion of community. Yes, we need to work to help the community, but we also need to believe that the community, they also have strength. And I think valuing indigenous and local knowledge is also very important. I think in Cambodia, Mr. Prakosal, if I'm not wrong, I think they have a very good practice of utilizing mother tongue. I think Dr. Brian in the morning told me that if you go to Cambodia and you will find different schools, they will use completely different mother tongues. And I think it's really utilizing that indigenous and also local knowledge. And obviously, this roadmap, I think, an invitation for us to have more integrated and also multi-sectoral ECCE system. And at the end of the day, we also need to see community as part of the co-creation in the system that we are trying to develop. So having the bottom-up approach instead of the top-down approach, I think it's also very important. Next, please. So, and here the role of educators is very important. We always talk about how educators can play as a transformative agent. And by transformative agent here, I'm not proposing a technical aspect of becoming the teachers, but I think we need also to recognize the critical aspect of early childhood education teachers. I think we need to start giving more recognition to early childhood education teachers. It has been mandated in the Declaration. It is also strengthened in the ASEAN Declaration, and I think it's time to translate those commitments into the practices of each country in Southeast Asia. We also need to recognize the emotional labor that spent by the early childhood education teachers. I think one of the distinctive features between early childhood education teachers and teachers in primary or secondary education is that the use of the emotional labor. I think that's very important aspect, and that's what distinguishes early childhood education sector from the other sectors. The problem is that emotional labor is often invisible. It sometimes cannot be measured, and we need to translate that. How can we recognize teachers' professionalism by also acknowledging their emotional labor? And by doing so, hopefully we can empower educators for the transformation of the system. Yeah, so I think if we would like to reimagine future-ready early childhood care education in Southeast Asia and beyond, I think we need to some of the language needs to be retuned, some of the language needs to be refined. We need to go beyond the notion of skills to humanization and dignity. We need to see equity not only as the core, not only as the outcome, but really the core of early childhood care education. We often talk about equity as the output, but we rarely talk about equity as an input. So I think we need to see equity as the whole mainstream in the whole process of early childhood care education. And I think early childhood care education also needs to be developed in a sustainable and also climate responsive ways. I'm not going to talk more details because I'm sure Evelyn has a lot to talk about the climate responsiveness. And also using the momentum of this roadmap, I think it's also time to strengthen the regional solidarity and also a shared responsibility. So, and it's obviously it has implication for some of the policy imperative. I think we always talk about early childhood education as a form of investment. I think the question remains is that who has to do the investment? I think we need to see financing ECCE as a public goods. At the moment in many countries in Southeast Asia, early childhood care education is always seen as remains seen as a primarily private goods, and I think there has to be a shift of paradigm in seeing and also mobilizing financing ECCE as a form of public goods. And obviously the things that has been repeated since morning is that there is a need for integrated governance across sector, and also we need to strengthen ECCE workforce. And I think Dr. Hani also mentioned about the importance of data and accountability. I think we need an integrated data, because if we agree that early childhood development works across different ministries, sometimes the issue of the shared data remains a problem. So we need to agree on an assessment system that will allow us to have the shared data, because by having a valid and reliable data, we can develop a proper and adequate intervention. Yeah. So I think I can skip this one. So I think really this presentation is a collective call to reimagine ECCE in a way that it goes beyond the notion of crisis response to transformative commitment. So regardless of the situation that are faced by the children, early childhood education is always ready to transform. We also need to see hope as a shared responsibility. It's not an individual attribute, but it is really a collective commitment, requiring government, educator, communities, and families to work together. And also we need to center children in policy and practices. When we talk about children's rights, very often our language of children's rights is dominated by the language of protection. I think we also need to strengthen the language of participation, because young children, they do have voices, they do have agency, and it's matter to be ensuring that those voices are captured in our policy document. I always say this, that, I read a line somewhere in LinkedIn a couple months ago that a policy on children should always include children. And very often when we develop policy, we don't really include children's voices. So we also need to make sure that ECCE is not measured but by how well children will adapt to the world, but by how courageously we shape the system that allow the children to adapt the world. So again, putting back the responsibility to the system rather than to the individualization. And I think that's it from my presentation. I'm not playing around, but sort of like reimagining a future-ready ECCE that hopefully can initiate further conversation and also further discussion. Thank you very much.
Big round of applause for Prof. Vina. Thank you, Prof. Vina. Now we directly proceed to the next speaker. Please, Ms. Evelyn, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to be part of this very important event and to be speaking on this very important topic, and very timely as we now see increasing pressure on the ECCE sector, brought about by many factors, some of which I've mentioned by Prof. Vina already, and I'm tempted to say all of the above so that I can skip my presentation. Anyway, I think that we all know that early childhood development is foundational for lifelong health learning, cognitive development, and even greater, adult productivity. But then again, what I think it's been said in previous presentations already, that what happens in the early years lasts a lifetime. As such, early childhood is really a critical period of development. Sadly, however, many children continue to miss out on the opportunity and the right to have access to quality ECCE services. And that really impacts their development and well-being. This is just a snapshot of ECCE in the region, and I think the previous presentations already alluded to some of these indicators in terms of wide disparities in access to quality of ECCE services, our pre-primary enrollment rate. Some of the countries are actually doing well, especially in East Asia, but if you look at countries in Southeast Asia, in South Asia, they are lagging behind. Another important point is the legal, framework. We talked about the free and compulsory pre-primary education, but in this region, only 6 out of 46 countries have adopted at least 1 year of both free and compulsory pre-primary education. And so in the fact sheet, regional fact sheet that we developed with UNESCO and GPE, we have identified a lot of key challenges. Low public investment in the ECCE sector. This has been really a problem, in the sector. So much so that most of the countries are actually not adhering to the recommended global benchmark of 10% of the total budget in education, or 1% of GDP should go to pre-primary education. This chronic underinvestment, of course, leads to a lot of problems, including the shortages in qualified ECCE teachers. Again, disparities in access is very prominent, and another important point is that, especially in this region, the ECCE sector is really feeling the pressure of climate change and other environmental risk. Compounding, that situation are multiple crises affecting young children. We haven't even, recovered from the impact of COVID-19, and yet, we're seeing challenges brought about by climate change, economic instability, the geopolitical tensions, conflicts, migration, and disasters. All of this really are putting, a significant impact on the development of our young children. And so the question is this: how do we then begin building a resilient ECCE or ECD system amidst this crisis, and challenges? In RNEC, we really put premium in terms of building partnerships across sectors. I think it was already said that it's not just really about early learning, it's not just the education component, but the other components as well. Partnership across levels, from local, national, regional, and global as well. We have to look at a system approach to all of this, as most of the speakers also alluded to. And so it is critical then that we are launching the ECCE roadmap today, because it can provide a critical framework that is needed to prioritize early childhood across all countries in the region. And in RNEC, we're seeing a very strong alignment of the ECCE roadmap with the things that we're doing in relation to promoting equitable and inclusive access to quality ECCE services, improving the status of our ECCE workforce, supporting parents and caregivers, mobilizing financial resources, and most importantly, and I really like the reflection of Maki earlier in terms of the governance, because I think even if we address all of these challenges, if we don't put in place a good and effective governance system, mechanism, we will not be able to succeed. And so allow me to just walk you through some of the advocacy initiatives that we have in RNEC, which we feel can help in building a resilient ECCE system. First is the importance of parenting and responsive caregiving. We are in partnership with Indonesia and the Philippines in implementing what we call the More Care for Young Children project. which is assisted by the UBS Optimus Foundation in Singapore. This project used local evidence to influence systems level change. And it has a baseline. We conducted a baseline together with local governments, and the results of those baselines are used to design context-responsive responsive solutions. What we are learning, though, from this project is that going for scale depends on our ability, to institutionalize good practices and the ability to sustain gains. Often than not, we always say, okay, we do pilot and then we scale. But we're skipping the process of institutionalization and really sustaining it, especially from the government side. Another important initiative is really supporting and elevating the status of the early childhood workforce. And so in partnership with UNESCO, we've been working on promoting and building the capacity of the workforce. We have trained a pool of trainers on social and emotional learning that is intended to support early childhood workforce. We also have mapped issues of workforce, including the high level of stress of our workforce, limited social emotional learning, specific professional development opportunities, and we have consolidated those findings into a regional policy and advocacy brief. Just some results across countries in terms of strengthening workforce policies and programs. What we're seeing is that some countries are able to already integrate social emotional learning in their teacher training programs, in early childhood education curriculum, especially in Vietnam, in Cambodia as well, and integration in humanitarian setting, and commitment to professionalize the education workforce. Just some of the knowledge products which you can see in our website in terms of the workforce initiative. Okay, this is my favorite topic. Young children and climate change, because this is directly related to resilience building. The intersection of ECD and climate change is something that we've been really advocating since 2019. Climate change, we know, is widespread, rapid, and intensifying, and we feel it. We feel it, all of us feel it, but more so, the impact to our young children, not just in terms of health, but also in terms of nutrition, in terms of early learning, in terms of safety and security. The biggest contradiction, though, is that young children are the least responsible for climate change, but they are the most, affected by it. As articulated by WHO, nearly 90% of the global health burden related to climate change is borne by children under 5. So they are really disproportionately affected by the different climate risks across the nurturing care components. And so what we do in RNEC is to look at it holistically. So we have a framework for action that is anchored on 4 pillars: advocacy and awareness raising, research and evidence, collaboration and partnerships, and capacity building. Here in Indonesia, we actually partner with the coalition, the Holistic Integrative Coalition for ECD, which launched their ECD and climate change campaign called EcoRise. This is an effort to integrate climate resilience into early childhood systems, at the local level. We also work with other countries, including Bhutan, Nepal, Bangladesh, the Philippines, in terms of integrating ECD into climate actions, climate policies, and climate programs. And so, we continue to work, we continue to advocate, and we have produced an ECD and climate toolkit which you can use as you try to also promote this advocacy. Okay, another important point, which I think we have already also discussed earlier, is the need to increase investments, for ECCE. It is very critical to building, a resilient system. ARNEC, in partnership with Their World, UNICEF, UNESCO, at the global, level, is promoting this campaign, which we call the Act for Early Years. It's a global campaign led again by Their World, together with other foundations as well, such as Lego Foundation and all the regional ECD networks, not just in Asia, but also in Africa and the Arab Network and in Europe. But in the region, ARNEC is the regional amplifier. The main goal of this Act for Early Years campaign is to mobilize at least $1 billion in new commitments from governments, from businesses, from international donors, from philanthropic organizations. The campaign will culminate in a first ever International Finance Summit for Early Childhood, which we hope to happen in early 2027. Central to this campaign is a child-sized manifesto, which they called Mini-festo. And this really urges leaders to make big investments in the youngest children. There are 3 calls to action in this manifesto: universal access to quality primary health care, universal access to quality inclusive preschool education, and universal support for families, including quality child care. Again, this relates to parenting and responsive caregiving. This is just a copy of a letter that was sent to G20 leaders, when they convened in South Africa, I think it was in November of last year. And for the very first time, the G20 leaders, expressed and really provided a stronger commitment to invest on early years. But then again, we have to look at, we have to watch for the implementation of it. So this is the plan for the first international summit. The plan is underway to have this in 2027. There are 3 goals to it: new commitments, as I've said, expansion of equitable universal access to primary health care, and sharing best practices and forging innovative partnerships, for ECCE globally, not just really in this region. So in summary, what I wanted to say is that making our ECCE system resilient requires actions, on different areas. Again, equitable and inclusive access to quality ECCE services, issues about workforce, strengthening our policies and governance, increasing investments, enhancing partnerships and collaboration across levels and across sectors. And as we address these challenges, I think that it is clear that children are faced with a lot of, crisis as well. We need to anticipate and we need to prepare for these challenges: climate change, disasters, conflicts, economic instability, digital, technology. The challenge, is huge, but I think that if we work together as a region, we would be able to see hope and progress as we try to collectively, build and sustain a resilient, inclusive, sustainable, and holistic early childhood care and development in this region. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing great experiences with us. It provides us insight to work more for the children. And ladies and gentlemen, please bear with us for a little longer. I am sure Dr. Hofam has a stronger message to deliver. So
thank you.
The floor is yours.
So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity for me to be here. So my name is Hoa Pham. I'm from Hanoi National University of Education in Vietnam. So from my perspective as a researcher, I understand that the future-ready ECC system is not only built. Is it? Yeah, I see. So from my perspective, I believe that the future-ready ECCE system is not only built in policy document, but it also built in classroom and through the teacher every day making decisions. So this become crucial for us to understand what this is not only what policy intend, but also how policy ignite and lived in teacher everyday practice. So today I would like to share the insight from my research on Vietnamese EC teacher perspective of child-centered approach, because throughout the event today we talk a lot about the policy from diverse stakeholders. So now I want to share the insight from Vietnamese teachers who live, who enact and who practice and also interpret policy every day in their practice. So my presentation includes 3 parts. The first, I will briefly outline about policy promise of child-centered approach in Vietnam. Second, I will give some insight of policy interpretation through a specific case of Vietnamese teacher interpretation of child-centered approach. And the next, I will give some policy suggestions based on my finding. So, as you know, a child-centered approach is a global policy priority in ECE globally and also in Vietnam. So globally, child-centered approach is promoted through a wide international framework and national reform in ECEs. And also it positioned as a shift from teacher-centered to child-centered learning. So in briefly, a child-centered approach focus on children's interest, children's autonomy, their participation, and children's active learning in and also in Vietnam, child-centered approach is not only an idea. This is compulsory approach so child-centered approach is like a founding guideline to design the curriculum. And Ministry of Education and Training in Vietnam have issued 2 phases to build child-centered preschool, and following this is national training for teacher program to carry out how to build and how to make a classroom based on child-centered approach. So we can see child-centered education is now a core policy commitment in Vietnam. But the key question here, how do Vietnamese EC teachers really translate this approach into their practice, and how can we learn from their interpretation? So to answer this question, in my research, we carried out similar structure with 12 EC teachers from diverse areas in Vietnam, and we have 2 research questions. The first is, how do Vietnamese preschool teachers make sense of child-centered approach? And second, what are the influential factors on their sense-making of child-centered approach? And throughout the finding, we find that the way Vietnamese teachers making sense of child-centered approach are linked with 3 main concepts. The first, this is linked with the way how they conceptualize of children's interests. Because many teachers say that child-centered approach means that teachers need to focus on children's interests. But how we can conceptualize children's interest? Is it what children really look at? Is it what children really like and do as human being at now and here moment? Or those children's interests like a tool for teachers to fulfill the learning outcome? And also, this child-centered approach in Vietnam also linked with very important concept is experiential education. Because many teachers say that they think child-centered approach means that to create as many experience for children. But the key question is, who decides the experience? And how makes experience become meaningful for the children and with the children? And the last, the teacher concept of teaching assessment and children evaluation. Because teachers say they want to focus on children's interests, but they still need to follow some standard to get children to keep on track to reach to reach the expected learning outcome. So who decides expected outcome for children and for teacher as well? And to show the complexity in the Vietnamese teacher making sense of a child-centered approach, I want to show an example from two quotes linked with the way teacher understand of experiential education. So in the first quote, the teacher emphasized that in teaching competition, this is a way of official assessment of teacher in Vietnam. So the teacher face some pressure because they have to perform too much, and in a result, the children may physically attend in the activity, but the children not really active or uncomfortable in each activity. So this quote may be an example about some like superficial teaching and highly performance driven, where the children's voice become invisible. And we can see another side in the second quote. So the second quote comes from a teacher who worked with children from minor ethnicity in Vietnam, and also the teacher is a person from minor ethnicity. So based on observation, she reflects that she encouraged children to have exchange custom, and this is a way for her to help children to build a sense of belonging, to help children to create a sense of shared decision making. And I can see the second quote is an example of culturally responsive pedagogy, where the experience becomes meaningful for children, and the experience comes from the children, not only teacher. So we see that the complexity in the way Vietnamese teacher sense making a child-centered approach, it ranges from toleration, assimilation, accommodation, and sometimes it is immersion transformation. So the second question is, what is influential factor which lead to the complexity in the way teacher making sense of child-centered approach in Vietnam? We see some influential factor, including the first, this is policy message. How the policy come to the teacher in Vietnam? So normally it comes from the training program. And the second is local school leadership. And the next is a design of local curriculum, teaching assessment, child evaluation, and the last one is teacher agency. So we see both sides of picture in the way effect on teacher sense making of child-centered approach in Vietnam. On the one side, if in some specific setting, when the training come with style of one size fit all and top down, and with strict leadership at local school, so teacher may lack a freedom to facilitate child-centered approach. But in another side, some teachers reflect about training program with direct coaching, mentoring from expert, and teaching a practicum, and they have they also have more space with open leadership and flexible curriculum. So everything support teacher agency to facilitate child-centered approach. But I also want to share another finding. To see both sides picture in one example. Let me share a story about one teacher. She described working in a context with achievement-oriented mentality, where teacher performance and children academic results become standard to assess quality. But she realized some standards are unrealistic. So she describes a feeling standing at a crossroad because she doesn't know how to, if she follows the standard or follow the children. And she make a decision, and she make a choice to follow the children. But the key question here from the story is that we can see both sides. We can see the conscience facing against teachers is performance driving standard in teaching assessment and child evaluation. But we also can see teacher agency who decide to become a normal teacher without any reward, without formal recognition, but a dedicated teacher for children. And I want to take a keyword from two other panelists, resilient, to ask a question. So, how to reconceptualize the teacher professionalism and teaching assessment to value teacher agency and resilience, because we realize that what matters in the teaching sometimes stay in small but meaningful moments of teacher everyday practice, where teacher listen, respond, and make space for children participation. But how we can make space for everyday, for tiny but meaningful moments in teacher everyday practice. So this is a question for us to reconceptualize the policy, and for me to give some policy suggestions. So firstly, we can see a need to reframe the teacher assessment to move based on performance in one-time showcase, to focus on teacher everyday practice and their ongoing professional learning. So based on this, we can align the teacher assessment with teacher agency and enable them to make meaningful participation for children. And also, we can rethink about policy making and building professional training program to work with a bottom-up approach with teacher participation in shaping policy, in making policy, not only interpreting policy. And we can make official dialogical space both in national and local context, maybe in online, offline format for teacher reflection and sharing of their professional life and practice. So based on this, we believe that a future-ready system can enable the real participation for both teacher and children. So this is the end of my presentation. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Ho, for your infallible insight. Thank you very much to our panels. What a wonderful progression of ideas. We heard a clear call for ethical responsibility and reclaiming accountability in every single level of ECCE. Yes, it proves exactly what Profina said, that hope is not nice, but transformative. So it requires action at all levels. Distinguished speakers, esteemed participants, ladies and gentlemen, I know some of you may have burning question in your mind. Even I need raise some question, but our time is limited. So maybe we will conclude this session. So once again, big round of applause to our speakers. Thank you very much. And once again, I will give the floor to the MC. Thank you.
Thank you so much to amazing moderator. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to invite all the esteemed speakers and moderator to please stand up, as we'd like to hand over the token of appreciation that will be given by Bapak Kurniawan, Director of Early Childhood Education. We'd like to invite Bapak Kurniawan to please join us on stage to give the token of appreciation to our moderator and esteemed speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you so much to all the speakers, to the moderator for leading such a fruitful discussion. We have a very nice souvenirs, wayang, the traditional wayang from Indonesia. And we'd like to invite Bapak Kurniawan to give the wayang one by one, starting from our moderator, Bapak Iwan Aris Setiawan. Thank you so much, Pak Iwan, for leading the discussion. And of course, to the amazing speaker, Dr. Vina Andriani, Director of SEAMEO CISA. Thank you so much, Dr. Vina. And next one, Miss Evelyn D. Santiago, Director of RNAC. Thank you so much for sharing your best practices, your point of view, and once again, thank you so much for being here with us on this special occasion. And last but not least, to the amazing Dr. Ho Min Pham, lecturer at Hanoi National University of Education, Vietnam. Thank you so much. And we'd like to invite all the speakers and moderators to join us for the photo opportunity along with Bapak Kurniawan in front of the table. Ladies and gentlemen, please get ready for the picture. In 3, 2, 1, smile. All right, amazing ladies and gentlemen. Once again, let's give a big round of applause to the speakers and moderator. That was the final panel discussion, ladies and gentlemen, about exploring the future of ECCE, the challenges, the opportunities in preparing children for a rapidly changing world. Wow, ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished guests, what a meaningful afternoon it has been. After 3 insightful panel discussion and the official launch that we have just witnessed in the morning, we have certainly gained valuable perspective and renewed commitment towards advancing the early childhood care and education in Southeast Asia. And ladies and gentlemen, before we wrap up the launch of the ASEAN-SEAMEO Joint Roadmap on ECCE in Southeast Asia, today I would like to thank you all for coming here today, for your continuous support, for your participation, and of course for the strong and solid collaboration between all the related parties. And ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of all the committee, I would like to also extend our gratitude, our sincere appreciation to each and every one of you who have made this event possible. And ladies and gentlemen, finally, before we move to the next session, I would like to also send our warmest greetings to each and every one of you who are joining today through the live streaming. Even though you cannot be here today with us, but your presence virtually are very, very amazing. So ladies and gentlemen, we have now arrived at the closing session of today's program at the launch of the ASEAN-SEAMEO Joint Roadmap. And it is an honor to invite the Secretary General of the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, Ibu Suharti, to deliver the closing remarks. To Ibu Suharti, the stage is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Your Excellency, Director of SEAMEO Secretariat, Dr. Habibah Abdul Rahim, Your Excellency, Director of UNESCO Jakarta, Ibu Maki Katsuno Hayashikawa, the Honorable Indonesian Government Center officials, Governing Board members of SEAMEO CICEP and partners, and colleagues, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan, salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Good afternoon. First of all, let me extend my sincere gratitude to each of you for joining today's meeting, the official launch of the ASEAN-SEAMEO Joint Roadmap on Early Childhood and Care and Education in Southeast Asia. It is truly a privilege to host you here and to be part of meaningful conversations on how we, the 11 nations of ASEAN and SEAMEO, can work and hand in hand to realize quality ECCE for every child in our regions. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to briefly step back and revisit the why behind the collective commitments to advancing ECCE in Southeast Asia. At its heart, it is a shared belief that our regions becomes more prosperous and stable when our youngest generations are nurtured holistically from their earliest years. We recognize that by working together, by sharing lessons, experiences, and resources, we can accelerate progress and deepen our bond as one Southeast Asian countries, united in our commitment to give our children the bright futures they deserve. With that noble purpose in mind, today's gathering built on many previous engagements that culminated in the adoptions of ASEAN Leaders' Declarations on ECCE in 2023. It's both a moment of reflections and a call to action. We are here to celebrate the milestones we have achieved together and to signal to the world that Southeast Asian nations are ready to move from ideas to actions through the implementations of the newly launched ASEAN-SEAMEO Joint Roadmap on ECCE in Southeast Asia. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our conversations today have reminded that ECCE challenges can look quite different from one country to another. And yet, we have also come to recognize that many of the root causes underlying those context-specific challenges are, in fact, universal. With that in mind, this joint roadmap is not intended as one-size-fits-for-all prescriptions. Rather, it offers a shared framework, one that helps each country identify areas for reflections and improvement in their own policies and programs in service of better outcomes for our children. Our discussions today have also deepened our shared understanding of what quality ECCE truly means. While countries may define it differently, we hold a common view. Quality ECCE must support the holistic development of children. Focusing on education alone is not enough. We must go further, such as addressing health, nutrition, safety, security, and parental support, so that every child's formative years are truly well-tended. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as I bring my remarks to a close, I want to highlight the indispensable role of parents, caregivers, and teachers in delivering quality ECCE. They are our frontline champions. They are the ones closest to our children every single day. And that is precisely why we must engage and empower them more intentionally. This conviction is also why we have invited our distinguished local partners to be part of today's gatherings. We firmly believe in the power of community-based engagements and interventions in empowering families, caregivers, and teachers so that they can be more effective in educating and nurturing our children. So let us give a warm round of applause to our local partners as well as our bilateral and regional partners who are with us today. We are deeply grateful for our contributions and we look forward to elevating that partnership even further. To close my speech, I have two pantun, like what we have, Pak Menteri had this morning, both in Bahasa and also in Bahasa Indonesia. Golden rise in the morning light.
Cakep.
Ready to foreharvest a beautiful view.
Artinya?
For every child, a future bright. Start with the work that we, the 11 Southeast Asian countries, do. The second one, the Bahasa Indonesian versions. Pergi ke pasar membeli sepatu.
Cakep.
Singgah sebentar membeli duku.
Artinya?
Jika 11 negara sudah bersatu, kualitas PAUD semakin bermutu. Once again, thank you for your participation in today's event. It's been a pleasure to meet you all today. And see you on the next meaningful engagements. Thank you and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much, Ibu Suharti, for finally closing this event, the launch of the ASEAN-SEAMEO Joint Roadmap on Early Childhood Care and Education in Southeast Asia. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of today's program. And once again, on behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to express our heartfelt gratitude for your presence, participation, and valuable contribution throughout this event. And let's close this wonderful event with another pantun. Little footsteps, bright and clear. Cakep, learning voices we all hear. ECCE shapes each young career, building futures year by year. Once again, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We hope today's discussion inspired stronger collaboration and meaningful progress in advancing early childhood care and education across the region. Cynthia Octaviani signing out. Thank you so much once again and enjoy the rest of your day. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.